controller down. It's time to talk about something extra. My name is TJ Leo.
And I really hope that that audio glitch I just heard comes through in the final recording. Because to me, I heard pause. It sounded like you were going through some kind of like
robot trance
shit. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess we'll find out. I'm gonna leave it in there.
Yeah, we'll find out. It'll be fun.
Yeah. This is Press Pause Extra. This is just a disclaimer. This is being recorded, second week of December? Are we in? Something like that.
Yeah. Do we want to put the exact date on this? Because I got something that'll be out of date by the time this goes up.
Probably a good thing. Yeah, today is the 9th of December. But this won't be going up until December 23rd, which will be the last episode before the holidays. So happy holidays, Merry Christmas, all that good stuff. Hope everyone has a wonderful week. And you'll probably not watch this until after Christmas, but it's going to go up just so we have something that week, because we're not recording anything that week.
So, but today, you want to hear the thing that's going to date this?
Oh, sure. I thought it was something specific that you were going to mention during the topic.
No. I just want to get it out of the way because it's not really related to the show, but it's kind of amusing. Oh. So apparently they've caught that health insurance killer guy, the guy who popped that health insurance CEO.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to take a guess what his name is? You're never going to guess in a million years.
What was the guy that faked being Kojima?
Joaquin Mogren or whatever?
No. It was like something Hassan. I gotta look that up now. I gotta find.
Whatever. Anyway, the point is the guy's name is Luigi Mangione, which doesn't
Mangione.
That doesn't sound like a real name. That sounds like a launch title for the GameCube.
It's a Luigi Mangione.
He sounds like he should be hunting ghosts.
He does. Hassan Karaman. Hassan Karaman. Hassan Karaman. That was the name. It was the that abandoned game. Remember that?
No.
It was the weirdest thing.
I guess I abandoned all knowledge of it.
Everyone did.
Anyway, sorry, what was that?
In case you didn't know about it, it was a game. This game called Abandoned got a trailer at, I think it was like a PlayStation showcase, or like remember when they used to have the PlayStation Experience show in December? It was at one of those. It was one of their like showcase E3 kind of things, and there was a trailer for this game called Abandoned in it, and it had so many like subtle hints that everyone thought it was a Kojima game, and then they thought it was a Silent Hill game with Kojima because of PT at the time, and then people started like deciphering all this stuff, and like the name of the studio, I think, was called like Blue Box Studios, and they have like this like almost made up history of not releasing games, but like everything seemed like really fishy and almost made up. It was so weird. And then someone did an anagram of the company owner, Hassan Karaman, and if you take all the letters of his name and rearrange them, it turns out to be
Hideo Kojima.
Like, yeah.
Okay.
But it ended up being nothing. This scam artist somehow got passed into Sony's showcase with a trailer for a game that didn't exist. It was just like a big vaporware.
Somebody's having
nonsense.
some fun. Somebody's playing silly buggers.
The dude went on like several interview shows with big names and swore it was a real game. It was just, and then he just disappeared one day. It was so weird. That was the first name that came to mind when you said, what was his name? I'm like, oh, it's got to be that guy. He's back.
Yeah, that would mean he actually did something this time.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a weird dude, man. I'd like to meet him and just be like, what? Why did you do that? What did like? I don't know. 15 minutes of fame, I guess.
I guess. But anyway,
there should be a documentary on that.
Maybe. We are here again in the salt mines doing the thing.
The salt mines.
Yeah, I don't know.
The Christmas salt mines.
We're just getting out that it's not really it's grains of salt. I don't know. I lost track of this metaphor like 3 sentences ago, and it hasn't even been 3 sentences.
It's one of those Mondays.
This time you are going to put up the fucking Final Fantasy VI boss graphics, though. I am going to make you do that.
I got it. Yeah, I'll have to find them.
I prepared them for you.
Yeah, are they on the drive? I don't even know where they are.
I'll put them on the drive.
Yeah, just put them on the drive. That's fine. Yeah. Today is TierMaker 2, and we are going to rate/rank all of the console controllers, including the Steam controller, which is not technically a console controller, but we're going to do it anyway because it is a controller, and it's not a third-party controller. I guess I should say these are all first-party company controllers.
Yeah, as far as you can tell.
Yeah, I don't think anything's missing. If we come across one that's missing, then
the fact is some of this stuff predates us. So we're not.
A lot of it predates us, yeah.
But not a lot of it.
A third?
No.
Oh, yeah. Oh, well, maybe not a third. Maybe 25%. Probably 25%.
Yeah, 25%.
The first,
sure.
9 are pretty obscure. But let's kick things off. Let's start off with the pencil sharpener.
Yeah, the fucking Magnavox Odyssey controller. This thing's dog shit.
Yeah, I mean it's not even a controller shit. Practically. It's just it's atrocious.
Excuse me.
Is that a crank on it? Is it the crank style controller?
No, it's dials. You rotate the dials.
Oh so my god!
I've actually just a bit of a disclaimer for this. I've never played an original Magnavox Odyssey, but what I have played is a brown box. Now, the brown box is one of the prototypes for the Odyssey, and there's I think there's 2 of them that they take around and show off at at shows and events and stuff. And so I got to play one of those with one of the original brown box controllers, and the box. The console itself did change shape. The controller did not change very much. It's a little bit different, but it's basically the same. It's terrible. It is designed by people who have engineering degrees and not but industrial engineering degrees. Like, these are people who have no concept of how to make a thing for human hands, which, for such an early game system, I guess, but how did these people sit down and test this and say, yeah, this is a product we could release? It's fucking terrible.
Yeah, this is how you control something. Yeah, it's no. Agreed. The next one, however, I think we both have a lot of hands-on experience with. I guess it's technically the Atari 2600. Yeah. It's basically the definition of how to do a home joystick at the time.
Yeah, in its most basic form.
Yeah, one button and a joystick. It worked. My most significant memory of using it was actually at school. They had this at the elementary school that you and I went to. On those they also had trackball computers as well. But they had this joystick for a few. I don't know if I want to call them games.
Yeah, but edutainment games.
Edutainment games, yeah.
Those were the ICOM computers, right? That had the trackball and the keyboard.
I think so.
And had Reader Rabbit.
The one I'm thinking of is maybe before that, because I remember the screen only being two colors. It was like a deep red and like a beige.
Oh,
So
okay.
I think the trackball ones I'm thinking of are that one. Or it could have been this joystick that we used it with. I'm not sure. I remember there being like a maze game that I played all the time
Yeah.
with this joystick. So um, where we would rank it though, I mean,
Yeah, it's
it,
pretty
it
basic. It gets the job
yeah,
done, but like
yeah, I
it's not particularly comfortable to hold because it's very
no.
blocky. It's not really ergonomic, but it's a fucking hell of a lot better than the Odyssey controller.
Yeah, I think that
Um,
defines the definition of a C for me. It's like it's not amazing, but it's definitely not bad. It's just it served its purpose well.
I guess, yeah,
And we can always move these around
yeah,
as we experiment.
yeah,
The next one I cannot put at C though.
yeah. That's the
um,
Intellivision controller. I've used
ugh.
this.
Yeah, is this the one
Have
where you
you?
had to put like the mask things over
Yes, they
to
did
tell
have
you what the
overlays.
buttons do? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oof.
Did you ever play Intellivision?
Not the original. I have the mini.
Oh,
Surprisingly.
okay. But
Yeah.
does it have like the controllers like this, or are
Oh yeah,
they
yeah. It came
better?
with the overlays and everything.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
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 redone like they're
yeah,
not original ones, but yeah,
yeah. But so you know what this thing is like. It's really I don't know why
it's
they did that.
clunky.
Like, why is it vertical? Why is it not horizontal? Like, if it was one side has the disc and the other side has the buttons, it still wouldn't be great, but it would be 100 times better than that.
Yeah, you have the
Yeah,
buttons. You can press them with your thumbs, and then you have the dial
yeah,
to do this. Yeah, I don't
yeah.
understand that either.
Why
Instead, you have
not?
to hold it like
It's
this and then do
yeah.
this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's terrible. It's not the worst controller. It like
no.
nothing here is going to be as bad as the Odyssey controller. That thing is supreme garbage. But
Yeah, I
the
think it's a D for
Intellivision
sure.
controllers is not good. Although there are some good games for the Intellivision. I just
For
wish there were better ways
excuse me.
to interface with them
Yeah,
because
definitely.
that controller is terrible.
Yeah, I think we can agree it's a D. I don't think it's
Yeah,
trash. It served its purpose, obviously, and television was fairly popular.
yeah.
But it is by no means better than a D.
Yeah, I mean,
uh,
I've mentioned Astro Smash before. That was a game I
mhm.
like on the Intellivision. And then there's
Yep.
there's Utopia if you're into like a really lo-fi simulation game.
Really lo-fi.
Utopia, yeah, it's not great, but for the time it was like, yeah, this is kind of neat.
Yep.
Um, anyway, then next we have a trackball. Now is that an Intellivision or an Atari trackball? I can't tell from the tiny little thumbnail. Oh, he's zooming in. Do we have a logo?
It's an Atari. It's Atari.
It's an Atari. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a trackball is a trackball. There's not really a whole lot of difference from one to the next.
I've
Um,
I liked trackballs when I was in elementary school until I got my hands on a joystick, and then I was like, "What is this trackball garbage?
yeah.
how is this a
So
thing?"
the trackballs are really good for specific games and specific games
Golf.
only. Well, no, well,
You go
maybe.
because to do a straight shot, you had to
Oh yeah,
spin
yeah.
it
Okay,
perfectly straight. Yeah.
okay. Oh, have you ever seen that? LGR did a video on it. It's a pool controller, like a pool cue, but
Oh, that's cool.
it's basically like an inverted mouse where you have rollers. Like, you know how
Oh,
the
so
old
there's a
mice used to have
yeah.
like rollers and a ball. It's like that,
Yep.
except you're sending a pool cue through it. Yeah,
That's cool. That's a good idea.
yeah.
Did it work
But
well?
only for games that supported it, yes, it worked
Yeah,
fine. And that's the
that's
thing
cool.
with trackballs is they really only work well for the games that they're kind of designed around. Like Breakout is good with a
Yeah.
trackball. Arkanoid is really good with a trackball. And anything where you have a paddle and a ball, Pong is another one. I think you could probably do Space Invaders with a trackball because you are just moving left and right on the screen, and a fire button, of course. Um,
Yeah, I'm trying to figure like I would say this is better than uh the Intellivision controller, but I don't know if it's
It's
worthy of being
hard
at a
though
C.
because it's the kind of thing that really like it's a controller that's basically built for a specific kind of game. It's like, what about the Sega Bass Fishing controller? Oh, it's great for Sega Bass Fishing, but try to play Crazy
That's
Taxi
true.
with it. You know, so it's
So you would
very
put it behind
specific.
the Intellivision
I don't think
just
I
because
would
of
put
how
it
specific it
behind the
is.
I think well it's really a question of
Like
like,
here,
do we rate these based on how good they are for games overall, or if it's a specialty controller, do we only rate them on the games that they're made for? Because
I would
this really isn't.
say. I mean, it's basic. I mean, it's tough, right? Because like this is basically the replacement for the joystick, essentially,
Uh-huh.
and so it's not better than the joystick. We know that.
Well,
I mean, if you had the
for some
choice
things,
between a trackball and a joystick,
well, for some things it is because the joystick on the Atari controller isn't pressure sensitive. It's just a binary input. It's not an analog joystick.
mm, mm-hmm.
Whereas this gives you the ability to move slowly or move quickly, depending on how fast you're rolling the ball.
That's true. Hmm.
So,
But specific games only.
but
Yeah.
specific games only.
Well, I would do this. I think that makes
Okay.
sense to me
Okay.
because I do think it is better than the Intellivision dial.
Oh
Like the
yeah, yeah,
dial
yeah,
is
yeah.
terrible.
The dial is abysmal. There's actually
Yeah.
there's a Angry Video Game Nerd did that double vision video where he talked about Intellivision and then ColecoVision. And
Mm.
one of the things he pointed out about the Intellivision controller is that if you hit the weird like disc on the Intellivision controller, because it's also a button. It's not just like
Mm.
a thing that you rock. It's actually like a button that you can press down, and you can actually like get your fingernail jammed in there, which is
Yes.
one of
Yeah.
the worst things to have in a game controller is something that can cause you pain. So
I've had
yeah, I think.
trackballs pinch my like palm skin
Oh
before too. It's
yeah,
awful.
yeah.
Yeah. But I moved it up just because you make a good point that it's like both of these controllers that are in C right now serve
Hmm.
a specific purpose. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And they do them
And
well, but at
we
the
have to
time,
also consider the time exactly of when they
yeah,
were made. It's like at the time, yeah, good designs, way better than what had come before. But we're not just
yeah,
looking at controllers from that era, so we have to,
no.
we have to adjust accordingly.
And then the next
All
one we
right.
have basically goes right back to
Yeah,
Shitsville.
so this is the 5200 controller, which the Angry Nerd also did a video on. Like the Intellivision controller, I'm not sure because the ColecoVision controller is also like this. I'm not sure why they decided to do this, but for some reason, numeric keypads were in briefly. It's not
Mm,
good. It's not
no,
good.
it doesn't even work half the time from
Yeah,
what
they're
his
not.
video showed.
Yeah, they're not very well designed. I don't think the quality control on those things were very good because they did have a higher rate of failure than the 2600 controller. Probably not helped by the fact that there's so many buttons on that thing. Like you're
Yeah,
just overcomplicating the design for
lots of points
games
of
that.
failure.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of points of failure for games that don't even need that many buttons. Like I could see adding more buttons to an Atari controller because you've only got the one. I could see adding like two or three buttons, right? So you have
Yeah,
like you'd have like a confirm cancel dichotomy or like you know
basic
jump
stuff.
and
Yeah,
shoot. Yeah, but
yeah.
adding a numeric keypad, and then I don't know if you can
Just
see they're barely visible, but there's also red buttons on the side, like little they're not
yeah, which
triggers, but
are hard to
they're
hit.
so yeah, they're super like the only way to hit them is with your index finger when you're gripping it. But what about the other one? Are you gonna position your thumb there? Like, aren't you? It's
Yeah,
just
I
yeah,
would put
it's
this in
bad.
trash personally. I,
Um,
I would I'd put it
I
there
I don't know if I'd
personally.
put it in trash because it's not painful to use that the way that the Odyssey controller is, but it's pretty bad. It's definitely lower than the Intellivision controller because it's also got the joystick sticking out, so it's like you can't even
Yeah, it's terrible.
like you can't move your thumb across it and hit a lot of things. Like with the Intellivision controller, you can have like one thumb down here and one thumb up
Yeah,
there, but with the yeah
I I
yeah
I,
that
I was gonna put it in trash just because the fact that it's just ergonomically stupidly designed, in addition to the fact that it's terrible quality and that the thing just is
Yeah.
just unreliable. I figured if there was going to be a second thing in trash, that might have
If
been
there
it.
was going
Well,
to be a
although
second thing in trash, it would be this. But I mean, it's not. I really gotta drive home how physically painful the Odyssey controller is to use. It is
that's fair.
murder on your wrists.
All right. Well, what about the next one? What do we got here?
Yeah, that's the 5200 trackball, which I actually don't have any experience with.
Neither do I. I guess we just leave it off the list.
I guess. I mean,
Can't really vouch for it.
yeah. Although I can't imagine it being worse than the default controller.
Yeah.
I guess we leave it off the list because neither of us have used it.
I can't, like, if I was going to put it somewhere just from what I know about it, I would put it right next to the other trackball controller.
Yeah, but
I
without
don't know
experience
enough.
with it, we can't really fairly judge.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll put that at the end there. All right. What's this piece of shit? It looks like a gear shifter.
Yeah, it does. That's the 78 controller, isn't it? The Atari 7800.
I think so. It is Atari.
Yeah, that's an Atari. Yeah, that'd be the 7800.
Is it just this here?
Yeah, there's one on the other side, I believe.
Oh, okay.
Hold on, let me, because I haven't played a 7800 in a long time. I think I only played it like once or twice.
Wasn't the 7800 the one that crashed the market?
No, it came out after that.
It came out after the crash? Oh, God.
Yeah, but it didn't do too well.
Well, of course not. The crash was happening.
Yeah. So that's the 7800 controller, or one of them. It looks like there were a few available from Atari, including one that almost kind of looks like an NES controller.
I do not have experience with this one.
Yeah, I mean,
so
from what I remember, it's okay because you don't have to worry about hitting numeric buttons. You can kind of sort of cinch your grip up on it higher, so you can have the thumb and then the index finger getting the side buttons and then the joystick. I mean, it's not amazing either. It's still kind of awkward, but it
looks like it would be comfortable to put on your couch, like armrest, and just lean on it. You know what I mean?
But then how are you going to hit the buttons?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I can't vouch for it, so I would leave it up to you. If you've used it, if you haven't used it, then we'll just throw it at the end.
I've used it only I think just the once. I think I played it once at Sid Bolton's place. So
good old Sid.
Yeah, so I would put it oh yeah, we need to have one of those. But I remember what I remember of it is just it's there. Oh, wait, God! Why did this you've wrecked it. You destroyed it. You broke it.
I did. There we go. Okay, you go back up there, and then what was the other one?
The trackball there. Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? I would put it in C because it's about as good as the original Atari controller. It has 2 buttons, which means it can do more. But I'm looking
it's hard
at
to
some
hit the
of these.
Buttons. So wouldn't it be there?
I don't know if
maybe?
I'd put it ahead or behind. I'd put it in C though. It's fine. It's better than the others. But Atari does have this sort of NES style controller that unfortunately isn't on that tier list, and we can't add to these. But I've never used that other 78 controller, so I wouldn't be able to say how good it is. It does look like it's better though. And then that's a ColecoVision trackball.
Another trackball. I don't have any experience with this one either.
I've never actually used that one either. I've used the standard ColecoVision controller, but I've never used that one. Okay, now what is that? Right. Did we ever identify that?
This one?
That kind of looks like it might be a ColecoVision logo, maybe. I've never used it though.
No, either have I. So we'll just pitch it in here.
Yeah.
I definitely have used this one.
Yeah, that's a ColecoVision steering wheel, but I've never used it.
I used it on Commodore. This was the Commodore.
Yeah,
one.
Because they all use the same interface.
Yeah. It's a steering wheel. it did its job. It definitely didn't. It wasn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. There just wasn't a lot of racing games
Yeah,
for Commodore 64, but the ones I had, it worked well.
yeah.
Um, like it wasn't trash by any stretch of the imagination. I would put it at an NC. I'd put it
Okay.
there.
Again, it's a
Yeah,
it's a controller that is very specific, but I guess
very
it does what it
specific.
needs to for what it wants.
Yeah, it didn't
Yes.
really
Now
have
we
any
have.
buttons on it though.
Oh
But
yeah, yeah.
oh
So
god,
now
not
we've
another
got
one.
the standard. Yeah, the standard ColecoVision controller. I actually have the most experience with this one, and it's not great. It also has side buttons, but they're kind of sunken in, so that makes it really hard to
Yeah,
hit.
I can see them on the sides there.
Those numeric buttons are also sunken in, which makes them harder to hit. And that joystick on the top is the single stiffest input device I've ever
It looks
used.
terrible. Yeah.
It
It almost, what
is
it
it
reminds me of? It reminds me of the 3DS thumb nub or whatever, like the one that shifts because it looks
Oh no,
flat.
if only no, it's not flat. It is extruded, but it is
Oh my
so
god.
stiff. It feels the amount of force that you have to use makes it feel like you're going to break the thing, but that's just how much force you have to use to move it.
Oh, that's bad.
At least the
So is
ones that
that a?
I've used. I've used a few of different ones, but they've all been like that. So I don't know if that's how they always were or if that's just what they get like with age. Cuz I wasn't around when this thing came out. This thing came out in like 1982.
There's
So,
way too many jokes that I could make right now. I'll make one
yeah,
though.
yeah.
Does the stiff joystick go in the big D?
Wait. So that would be like inserting a stick into
Don't.
wait.
Why do you like that word? I hate that word. Inserting. I gotta hate you.
Is
Next
this
word you're
is
gonna
this
start
like a
using is
sounding
moist.
is this a sounding situation we're talking about here?
What?
I can't talk about that on YouTube.
No, don't do that. No.
We'll get age restricted.
We always
I say that every
get restricted.
I say
Yeah.
that every time, and we've never gotten age restricted, like where you have to
That's
log
because I
into YouTube.
oh well that's because I specifically put us as explicit content.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Because
Yeah. So
there's
this
the option is basically is this made for kids or is it not made for kids? And I'm like,
no,
well,
it's not made for
it's not
kids.
made it's not made for kids.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming this goes here.
I would put it ahead of the 5200 controller just because they work.
Battle of the trash.
I've never had one fail on me. But it's
Yeah.
awkward as hell to use. Although I will say, I really like Berserk and Frenzy on the ColecoVision. That's a lot of fun. But
Yeah, don't
that's
have
the that's
experience
the
with
one
those.
where that's the one where you're the stick man and they're the robots and then the smiley face comes after you. It's got the
Oh
voice
god, yeah.
clips in
That's
the arcade
terrifying.
version. Get
Yeah.
the human. I like that game.
Oh my
I like that game a lot.
get the human. All right. Did Sega Master System come before or after NES?
After.
After, okay. So the last one here is the Atari.
A Commodore, isn't it?
Well, I used it on the Commodore. I don't know if it was specifically meant for the
Oh,
Commodore though,
yeah. I
because
don't know.
it's got that input. But
Yeah,
I did
it's
use
the
it.
same Atari input.
Yeah.
So I don't know what
Um,
made it.
the reason I like this one more than the Atari one at the top here is because of these grooves. I don't know if you can see it in the picture, but it's got these like
Oh yeah,
indents for the
yeah,
different directions.
yeah. The
It makes
N64 controller
you
had those.
exactly, and I love the N64 and the GameCube. No, it wasn't the N64; it was GameCube. GameCube had the
No, the
indents.
N64 had them as well. It's right there. We have a picture of it right here on the page, dude. You
Where
just
is it?
scroll down.
I can't get it to come up.
Oh, you can't get into it. You can't.
No,
They are there.
It's circular, isn't it?
Nope. It has those indentations. I
Yeah,
guarantee you they're there.
I know
It's not
GameCube
letting you
does,
get
but
in. Yeah, GameCube
no, it will
does.
when we
N64
it will when we
does.
get there. But yeah, I
Yeah,
love those
but
indents because it lets you not have to look at the controller to make sure you're absolutely perfectly straight for games that really need it.
yeah, which
So
Mario 64 is a game where you need that.
yeah, absolutely. So I
Yeah,
like this
so
one
yeah,
actually
I'm
slightly better than this one personally.
yeah, so sure,
That's what I
put it
would
up
do.
ahead.
Yeah. Next one. Now we're getting into
Next
some
one.
stuff that we know
Now
for sure.
this is hyper familiar territory.
Yeah.
Um, NES
Obviously, this
controller,
is the
it's
NES. Yeah.
yeah, it's fine. It's better than the Famicom controller because the Famicom controller has the wire coming out of the side instead of out of the top,
Yeah.
and that's a pain in the ass. I would, yeah,
It
but
is
where do we
square
put
though.
this? It is square. It is, and as a
It is
child,
not
it wasn't a
comfortable.
problem. But as an
Yeah.
adult, I'm kind of cramping my now adult-sized hands to use it.
Agreed. It's very crampy. I do really like the A and B buttons though. The concave button.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
that's so comfortable.
It just kind of
Um,
cups your finger, your
I,
thumb, like
I'm
how your thumb tip kind of rounds off. Yeah,
yeah, I
it's
think it's
nice.
perfect. That's where I would put it. I don't know if you agree on that one.
Yeah, yeah. Because
Because
these
of
are
its
only going to
square
get
design,
better.
it's yeah, exactly. Like there's so much room for improvement that it's hard to put it higher than that. But
Yeah,
I think it's the best in that column for sure.
yeah,
As for these other NES controllers,
yeah.
um, I don't even know what
Have
to say
you
about the NES Advantage. I used it
have
one
you
time,
ever?
and I think it was at someone's house.
Yeah, I've used it. I used it once or twice. I remember it being fine, but I'm also not
Yeah,
really like a fight stick kind of guy. I'm not the guy who has like the
no,
arcade style joystick at home. So
yeah.
like it's fine, but it's I prefer
I
the
would
regular
imagine it
controller.
was. Yeah, I would imagine it was better than the Commodore, the one that we were talking about, but maybe not because
Yeah.
it doesn't have the grooves. So I don't know.
Uh, it does have turbo though. Turbo fire for A and B.
I always thought that was cheating, personally.
I
But
mean, kind of, but some game like if it's a game like any game like R Type or Life Force or Gradius where you're just going to be shooting all the time, they should just let you hold down the button anyway.
that's true. That's a good point.
So
That's true. They do eventually.
yeah, I
Um,
can't think of a single one of those games that came out after like 1992 that didn't just let you hold down the button.
no. Where do we put this? I don't even know.
I guess I would put it behind the NES controller. Like it's
Yeah, it's
my
hard.
personally, it's not as good to me because I just like to hold a controller, but like
Oh yeah,
it's
it's
not
definitely
bad.
not as good. Yeah. This one I don't have any experience with, but it's basically just a Super Nintendo controller with
Yeah, it's very
less
very
buttons.
similar. So yeah, so that's from the redesigned top loading NES that they came out with in like 1992, I think.
Yeah.
I've used it before. It's fine. It's totally fine.
I have to assume it's better than the original NES controller because it's
It's a
rounded.
little bit better. Yeah.
Yeah. Are the
Um,
buttons still the same? Still that nice concave feeling? Or are
I
they
no, I believe they are
ooh.
convex because it's like the Super Nintendo
Ooh.
controller. It's been a while since I
Ooh.
used one though.
It's been a
Like
while.
I haven't used one of those since
Let's see if
like
we can let's see if we can tell from the picture.
2009.
Mm.
Yeah, they're either flat or they're convex, I think, because they look like they kind of unless we can is there maybe I can get on Google Images and find like a side on view or something to see.
Yeah, I would say if they're convex, then it's better than the NES controller, and if it's not convex, I would say it's equal to or slightly less, because the convex buttons are so comfortable.
Yeah, they are.
They
They
are
it
they are
looks kind of
convex.
flat. It looks kind of no. I'm agreeing with you. They look kind of
Oh, okay,
flat to me.
okay.
But like I'm also seeing like clones that definitely have the concave buttons, but I don't know if
But
the
those are third
original one
parties,
does.
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're third party clones. Um, man, it's hard to tell. I think they might be convex, or
I was
just
going to
flat.
Google that question. Does the redesigned
Yeah,
NES
sure.
controller have convex buttons? No, that's Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I keep finding
Is it called?
so
Is it
many
called the
like.
Max?
No, the Max is the next one in our list there.
Oh, hmm.
Yeah, the problem is that all the high res photos I'm finding are of like modern clones that have slightly different designs, and so we can't say for sure.
They called it the dog bone controller. That's funny.
Well, I mean, it does kind of look like a cartoon dog bone.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna say that it goes below, since we can't confirm.
Yeah,
I think
okay,
that's
that's
fair.
fair.
Yeah.
And
The next
it's like a
one.
very minor difference.
Yeah, yeah, very, very. But those concave buttons, though, man, they need to bring those back. In my opinion.
Yeah, so the
The
next one
NES
is the
Max
NES.
controller is
Yes.
it's kind of fugly.
Yeah, but I mean, it's more comfortable.
Why did they get rid of the D-pad? The best
Yeah,
D-pad ever.
it's like a weird slider thing, like you said on the 3DS, except it's not analog. It's just a
Oh,
binary
okay.
input, so it's not as
Okay,
good.
well, definitely not better.
Yeah.
How could that be an improvement?
Yeah, I don't know
That's
what they
got to
were thinking with
be.
that one.
Oh man, I don't even know what I would do with that one. Well, I haven't used it. Have you?
Yeah, I've used it like once, and it was
Once.
yeah, it was okay, but it wasn't the
Well,
kind
I'll
of
leave
thing
it
where
up
I
to
was like,
you.
oh, I would put it below the NES Advantage. I think.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
All right. Next is the Sega Master System.
Yeah, the Sega Master System is basically the same controller as the NES, except like the Famicom, the wire, Jesus, blah, 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 comes out of the side, which is really uncomfortable because now you got to
Yeah, why
position
the
your
hell
hands
would they do
around it.
that? That is
I
stupid.
don't know. I don't fucking know.
These engineers don't think, do they?
Yeah.
Um, were the
So
buttons
it's like a
concave?
worse. I don't know. It's been so long since I last played one of those.
Let's see. I'm
Yeah.
gonna look it up. Are the Master System
Is this going to be a question
buttons?
that you ask for every controller?
Nope, just the old ones. I know all the
Just the
rest
old
don't.
ones.
Um,
I believe the buttons are like flat. They look kind of
well,
flat in
that
these photos. So
honeybee controller pad.
I guess that's going
Is
to
that
be
what it's called?
your sticking point.
Well, I mean, the fact that they don't have the concave buttons and the wires on the side and it's rectangle, that's pretty.
Yeah,
That's a lot
the
of things
wire out
against
the
it.
side is the really damning thing for me because that shit is
Yeah, I don't
uncomfortable.
know. I don't know where. Like, probably here, I guess.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, but it does have a D-pad, but that wire is just so stupid.
yeah.
That's so
I
stupid.
think the wire is what wrecks it because otherwise it's just an NES controller.
Yeah. God, that's bad.
Uh,
That is bafflingly bad.
yeah.
Okay.
Then we have the
TurboGrafx.
TurboGrafx. I've
I have no
also
experience with
used
this
this
one.
one. I've used this just like the one time,
Hmm.
and I don't remember it being especially good or especially bad. Um,
Is that the definition of not enough XP?
yeah, I think it is because
Okay.
it was just the once.
I also have no experience with the next two, Neo Geo.
Yeah, I have never used the first Neo Geo home controller. That one I don't have any experience with.
But this
Um,
big ass one you do?
yeah, so The big one there, I believe that's the exact same layout as the Neo Geo arcade machines, and I have played a Neo Geo arcade machine. Yeah, that's okay. So that's the Neo Geo X. Yeah, those are. Yeah, I believe that's the standard layout for a Neo Geo arcade machine. Is the sort of you get them where it's you sort of curl your fingers in, and they're kind of curved
Weird.
to match the curvature of your fingers. Yeah, it's not the best, but it's also like a stick, and I just generally don't like sticks, so it's hard for me to give a fair assessment because I'm just like, I'm not a stick guy.
So another not enough XP, I guess.
Yeah, I just don't. It's not so much of not enough XP as just I'm just not the person to ask about sticks. And when it's
Yeah.
a stick that I've only used a few times, it's like, nah.
That's fair. I think 90% of the next, all the rest are stuff we both have experience with. Starting with
and lest any angry Neo Geo fans come at me, guys. The games are fine. I just don't like the arcade stick design. Like Metal Slug is so fucking good.
Yeah, Metal Slug is amazing.
Great games on a great platform. I just don't like the sticks. They're just not my thing. But yes, the Genesis controller.
Genesis does what Nintendo don't. But is it better than Nintendo? No, I don't think so. Personally, I mean, it's tough, right? Because it's like, do we look at this as a standalone controller, or do we look at this compared to the Super Nintendo controller? It's kind of a tough call. The D-pad on it is not great.
No, the D-pad I remember being kind of stiff.
Yeah, the buttons are decent. They're big.
Buttons are fine. They are big, which is nice. And
it is weird that there's only 3.
To hold. Well, that's because the NES has 2, so we have 3, so we're better. Ooh.
Yeah, even though they didn't use the third button like half the time.
Yeah, and also the thing is, they have a start button and they have A, B, and C, but there's no select button, so it's still technically just 4 buttons. They're just
still the same amount.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Would I say it's better or worse than the NES controller? Because it's either right ahead of it or right below it.
Yeah, it's tough because like that. I mean, it could just be that I got ones with bad D-pads, but I remember
I did too. I did as well.
I remember them generally being stiffer than the NES D-pads.
Yeah, I would say, the extra button doesn't do anything for it when compared to the NES controller, which has, again, the concave buttons. They're more comfortable, and the D-pad is like, it's the best D-pad maybe ever on the NES controller. So
yeah,
it's like,
the NES D-pad, they basically got it right the first time. And it's kind of the standard against which that particular input is measured. And the Genesis one, it's not as good. So I would put it behind it. Well, it would have to go behind the dog bone as well, wouldn't it?
Well, we said it didn't have. Yeah, I guess it would.
Yeah, but it's got a good D-pad as well.
It's still got the good D-pad. Yeah. Okay,
yeah.
I agree. The Super Genesis, the
6-button controller. Not a lot of games used it, but if you were into Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat, it was important to have.
Yeah, I would say it's slightly better than the Genesis controller, but not.
I'd put it just
significantly.
ahead.
Yeah,
because it does everything that a regular Genesis controller does. And then
this
of course
controller, Nintendo didn't. What the previous controller don't? I don't know.
I don't know.
I tried.
I don't know. I don't think there's anything you can do with that.
No, I think it's just bad. Okay.
Super Nintendo controller. That is basically the template for all modern game controllers.
Yeah, this is our first A or B. I don't know how we rate it though. I mean, it's got 4 buttons on the face. It's got an L and R button. It's got one of the best D-pads ever. It's got a select and start button. Oh man, it's fairly comfortable. I wouldn't say it's the most comfortable. It's definitely more comfortable than the NES controller.
Yes,
but it's very light, which was nice. But there are way better controllers than it. But it is this. But you're right. It is the template for modern controllers. Oh man,
I would put it
why don't
in A. I think it'll end up being at the lower end of A by the time we get
yeah
to the end of this. But I would put it
okay
in A because it's so important and it's still like really good to use for those games. Like I don't feel like I'm giving something up by going back and using a Super Nintendo
that's
controller.
true. That's true. All right, I'm cool with that. Now we got the Jaguar controllers,
Yeah, Jaguar
which I do.
controllers.
These are the last ones that I don't have experience with. Actually, no, that's not true.
Um,
uh,
I have used the 3-button Jaguar controller. It's not terrible, but it's not great either.
okay.
Um,
I mean, it's basically got a giant number pad for no reason.
Yeah, there are some games that use that, but I haven't played enough Jaguar games. Well, let me say this: I haven't played enough games that are on the Jaguar. I've played games that are also on the Jaguar, but I haven't played a lot of
Yeah,
games
yeah,
that are like specifically the Jaguar version of
right.
those games. Because there's for a lot of those games that were multi-platform, there's usually a better version on the PlayStation or the Saturn or the Super
Yeah,
Nintendo. I don't know. I'd put it ahead of like the 80s joystick controllers, but and you know what? I'd put it ahead of the Master System controller because it has the cord coming out of the top.
that's true.
But yeah, that's
A
about
lot of
it.
C's. A lot of C's.
Yeah, yeah.
We might be moving some things around, I think. But we'll see. All right. What's the next one? Panasonic CDI? Or is that 3DO?
3DO. 3DO. We don't
3DO.
even have CDI controllers on
Yeah,
here
CDI is
because
not on here. Yeah.
I've that's fine. I've never used a real CDI
Oh, it was
controller, and I don't.
Philips, not Panasonic.
Yeah,
That's why.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I don't care to either because those things look terrible.
Good.
There's one apparently
Yeah.
the default one that came with it is like a remote controller instead of like a game
Mm,
controller, and they look awful.
yeah. Let's
But yeah,
zoom
the
in on this one.
3DO. Um, I mean it's basically very similar to a Genesis controller.
I see
I've used
concave
it.
buttons though.
Yeah, I used it once. Again,
Mm.
I think it said Bolton's place.
I cannot comment because I
And
have not touched that one.
yeah, meh. It was
I mean, it's got to be
the
better than Genesis, but
well, the thing is, I'm like because I only used it like the one time. I'm struggling to remember anything to say
well,
about it. I
that,
guess
that
not enough experience because
yeah, that's
it's
unfortunate. It does it.
I don't remember it being bad, but I also
Yeah,
don't remember it being great. But that just might have been the fact that I was playing a
lack
fucking
of
3DO.
experience. Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
oh man, I can't wait to play this horror themed level in Gex, the one that I've only ever seen that one and no other of because
Yeah,
fucking nobody ever bothers again as the nerd pointed out, nobody ever bothers going past the first level to get footage for the rest of the game.
it's true. It's
Yeah.
absolutely true. All right, what do we got next? PS1
Yeah.
pre DualShock. This is the original
Mhm.
analog stickless PlayStation controller, which is a decent controller.
Yeah.
Um,
Kind of
uh,
small.
yeah, I do remember it being very skinny.
Yeah,
Um,
the DualShock. So the thing about the DualShock is that it's not actually that much bigger, but it's a little bit beefier, and that makes it
mhm.
like it just being a
It
little
just
bit
feels
thicker
better.
just
Yeah.
feels better. But the standard PS1 controller isn't bad. I'd say it's at least as good as the Super Nintendo controller. It's basically the same thing,
Oh, I
but
wouldn't.
with
Uh,
handles.
the D-pad's not anywhere near as good because it's that stupid PlayStation D-pad where it's like separate buttons. I hated that shit.
Well, it's not separate buttons. It is still a single piece, but they're separate. It's like sunken
Yeah,
down, and part of the plastic shell goes over the middle. I actually don't
yeah.
mind that as much as you do,
Ugh. Yeah, I hate
but
that shit.
I do think that the Super Nintendo controller has a better D pad.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Um,
so where do you want to put
I
this?
I personally I would put it. Um, man, it's so hard because it's like, yeah, it has more buttons and it is more comfortable than the NES controller, but I would rather play with the NES controller personally because that D-pad is so good and those buttons are so nice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I don't know if it was solely my list, I would put it right below NES, but above
NES or
the
Super Nintendo?
NES. I would put it right
Really?
below
You
NES.
would put that
Yeah,
below NES? I wouldn't.
yeah. Where
No.
would and you would put it right below Super Nintendo? So does that mean
Yeah.
we'll
We'll
have these
split the
into the B
difference in.
column?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
our first B. All
Yeah.
right, but now you add the analog sticks to it. Now it's a whole nother
Now,
beast.
yeah, now, like I said, it's a little bit fuller, and that makes a huge difference for how it feels in the hand. Um,
Yeah,
Sony had it right with this one, and they've barely changed it since. They've only started to change it within recent years, and they haven't even changed it all
yeah,
that much.
yeah.
Um,
Um, but they did
I'd put
change it
this in A.
for many. It's gonna be the low A, I think, by the end of it. But yeah,
Sure.
I wouldn't say it's as good as the Super Nintendo controller still, though. You?
Hmm. Now we have the Saturn pad. So this is the
I,
American.
yeah, I don't have any experience with these. You've got these.
Yeah. The American Saturn pad isn't as comfortable as the Japanese one, which has a distinctly different shape. The Japanese one is not on this list. Although it's kind of irrelevant because I think I've only used like the American Saturn pad like once
Hmm.
because I didn't have a Saturn, so I played like a demo kiosk or something. So I would put this in not enough experience.
Okay.
Um,
What about the big
oh, and
oval
I've
here?
never used the Saturn 3D pad, the Nights
Yeah,
into Dreams one. No, I've never used that.
I've touched it. I've never actually
Oh,
played a
you've
game with it though.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I've
I
never even
can't.
touched it.
I think Shun had one, if I remember correctly.
Didn't he have a Dreamcast?
He did. He did. But he
But
had
did
a
he
lot
also have a
like a
Saturn?
yeah. He never actually like took it out or played it because it was a Saturn.
Yeah,
But it
yeah.
was. I remember that playing with that controller, just being like, "What the hell is this thing, man? This thing's
Man, I
ugly."
feel bad because like the Saturn is this missing point. Like it's this void in my gaming knowledge, but it's also like it's we're in North America and it's the fucking Saturn, so it's not like we missed out on a lot. If we were in Japan where the Saturn had way more games, then it would be an issue. But
Yeah,
fucking in North America, the Saturn support was abysmal. And whatever
yeah,
was good on the Saturn was also on the PlayStation.
yeah. And
So
usually the PlayStation version was superior.
yeah,
Sadly,
so it's like, I mean, there's good games on the Saturn. You know, Burning Rangers is kind of fun, but if I wanted to play Daytona USA, I'd play it in the arcade.
yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
Or you would wait and play it on the N64 because I that's where I played a lot of my racing games of that era. Um,
yeah,
which is the next controller, the controversial
yeah.
N64
Yes,
controller.
I'm not a huge fan of this thing because I think that you should be able to hit every button on a controller,
Hmm.
and you
Hmm.
quite specifically can't do it here. Um, it's
Yeah, it's specifically designed so that you can play it as a 2D sort of D-pad oriented controller, or you can switch to the analog stick. The
yeah,
problem
and
being that a lot of games required you to use both.
yeah, like Nintendo just did not seem to clue in onto the idea that hey, you could still use the D-pad for like quick access to things, which is what it's been relegated to in a lot of games. And guess what? It
Yeah,
works really well there. Or like
yeah,
cycling through items or weapons or whatever, and not having that. I mean, you're basically giving away four inputs on your controller.
yeah. It was really weird because like the Super Mario 64 was basically like the tech demo for this controller, and I don't
Yeah, and it
think it
works
used the
great.
D-pad.
No, it didn't.
Yeah, it's like why? It's like what were you thinking, guys? It is a little weird. I don't mind it. It's definitely not like the best controller of all time by any stretch, and that stick wears
Yeah,
out
The stick, exactly. It was
Oh,
exactly what I was going to say. The stick wears out like
terrible.
crazy because it's like plastic grinding against
It's
plastic.
plastic and too thin. Yeah.
Yeah, it turns into a powder. You can actually see
Yep.
it collecting on the bottom of
Yep. I did
the little
love the
well
Z
that the
button
stick is
though.
in. I mean, the Z button's fine, but like it doesn't make up for everything else.
Man, where? Okay, so here's what I'm proposing because I think we're going
Mm-hmm.
to run into this problem a lot. I think we should move the NES controller up one.
Really?
I think it belongs in B, at the bottom of B, because like when I look at all of C, I go, man, the NES controller, despite it being square, it's a damn good controller. And I would
Mm,
put the N64 there in its place. That's what I would do.
I don't know. I don't
What are you
know.
thinking?
Because I mean, the N64 controller, it is kind of comfortable. Like the handles on it, they do fit well in the hand. It's just that having it be three pronged was a really bad idea. I would say it's more
Yeah.
comfortable to hold than the NES controller, especially if you're playing for a long time. Um, yeah, that's tough.
Right?
But then it's also
Well,
like, am I conflating my good memories of the experiences I had with that controller with the controller?
right. Yeah.
Because it's
That's
like
a tough thing to
I had
compartmentalize.
a lot of really good experiences with the NES controller, but like those would have been good experiences if I was using a fucking keyboard or if I was using a Super Nintendo controller. Like it doesn't. It's not about the controller; it's about the games. And
Mm,
so it's like, am I putting that on the? I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too hard about this. I do know that the N64 controller does not go ahead of the PlayStation controller. That's for damn sure.
no, definitely not. Um, well, of the PlayStation 1 controller, it doesn't even have a stick. Now that I'm
Eh,
thinking about it.
yeah, but I don't
But it's
know.
only one stick. It's one
Yeah,
stick and then there's some C buttons, which is
which almost
that's
never got used for camera control anyway.
yeah. Oh man. Yeah, this is tough. I
I
think I highly regard the NES controller
Yeah, I think you
more than I
do.
thought I did.
I think I would put this. Okay, let's assume that you have a fresh mint in box N64 controller.
Mhm.
I think I would put that above the NES controller because it is more comfortable to hold for long periods of time, and it will let you do more things. Um,
If that is what if we that's a good way to look at the criteria for this is like brand new out
yeah.
of the box. Which one would you prefer? If that is the criteria that we're going with, I would put it above the PlayStation 1 controller because it doesn't have sticks,
Ooh,
and I hate that. If you go back and you look at
yeah.
all the PlayStation games that it really can't play well because it doesn't have sticks, it's kind of poopy in that regard.
But then think of all. Well, you got a point there because I was thinking like if you think about like Street Fighter Alpha on the PlayStation, but if there was an Alpha on the N64, you could just use the D-pad for that as well. Yeah, okay, maybe above the standard PS1 controller, but it absolutely does not go ahead of the DualShock.
No, definitely not. 100%. Okay. Dreamcast. The odd Duke like uh,
Yeah, the Dreamcast.
controller.
So a lot of people hate this. I don't hate it, but I do have issues with it.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm
I
in the same
really
boat.
like I really like the way it sits in the hand, except I wish it was flared outwards. Because if you look at it, it's kind of flared inwards, and it requires you to put your wrists at a bit of a weird angle. Like
It
if you
also.
look at the way that it slopes, eventually those two
Mhm.
points will meet, and so it's almost like a part of a teardrop shape. Whereas you
Yeah,
look at all the
it
other
feels
controllers, and
bulky.
it feels well, it is bulky.
It is bulky, but it feels
But
bulky in your hand. Like, you know what I mean?
the
Like it's like,
the sloping inwards I don't like, and it kind of cramps my wrists for long periods of time. But the way that it actually sits in the hand, like the grips on it, which you can't see because they're underneath, those feel
yeah,
pretty good.
they
Um,
do. The D-pad's
Also,
also pretty nice.
it's not. It's an okay
It's not better
D-pad.
than the NES controller as far as the D-pad
No,
goes, but it's better than the PlayStation in my opinion.
I don't know. I feel like the D-pad on the Dreamcast is kind of tall and has a tendency to kind of slide around a lot. If it was lower to the
Mm.
controller and wasn't,
Mm.
you know, didn't rock around so much, like so aggressively, I'd like it more. But I think it's probably I haven't taken apart a Dreamcast controller, but I suspect that there's probably a secondary circuit board lower down that it sits on, and that's probably why it's so tall. Because I have taken apart a 360 controller, and that's why the 360 controller's D-pad is so tall,
Mm.
because it's on a secondary further down board.
I
Um,
do agree with you that
so
the triggers are nice on the Dreamcast
the
controller.
triggers are awesome on the Dreamcast
The stick
controller.
is
There's
nice. It's
stick's
only
pretty
one
good.
stick though.
It is only one stick, which was weird at that point because the DualShock
Yeah.
was out.
It's also got a
Um,
horrible cable placement. I hated
yeah, the
that.
cable placement sucks. It does have a little notch on the bottom of the
Yeah.
VMU base,
That's,
but that's not a good solution. Also,
no, it's
the
a
cable
terrible
is
solution.
short. The cable is
It's
really
very
short.
short.
It's only like 6 feet long. I think the PlayStation controllers are at least 6.5 feet long. And it's made even shorter by the fact that it's coming out the bottom and has to
The
wrap around
bottom.
forward.
Yeah, you lose like 3/4 of a foot just by having to
Yeah,
bend it backwards.
yeah,
The memory card, or what it was, VMU,
yeah.
was
The
kind of
VMU.
cool.
It's kind of cool, but I didn't use the second screen feature very much. Like beyond the novelty
Yeah,
of it, there weren't really a lot of
yeah.
games that like I remember Tony Hawk's Pro Skater on it. Whenever you wiped out off your board, it would just say "ouch" or "wipe out" or
Oh God,
"gnarly" or, and it was like, is that really what you're using this thing for? I
didn't
think the
it
only game,
also? Yeah, wasn't it something to do with the little creatures that you took care of in Sonic Adventure?
yeah. So you could what you could do is you could load them onto the VMU, and then you could use the VMU separately because it had the built-in
Mm,
battery.
mm.
Um, and so you could do it was like a little virtual pet, like a little Tamagotchi,
Yeah,
and then you could put them
Tamagotchi. Yeah.
re-import them back into Sonic Adventure and all that. But like the battery on that thing was a really shitty lifespan. It only lasted for like a week.
Trying to remember, it could just be my. This could be a skewed memory, but I remember the face buttons feeling like they were too far apart.
No,
Like more than a standard controller, but I don't know if it was this controller or not. I think it was,
no,
but I don't
they're
know.
not too far. They're about the same distance apart. They are a
Yeah,
little bit looser feeling, I would say, but they're
yeah, they
also
don't
really
feel
poppy.
amazing.
They're
Yeah,
kind of poppy though. Like they've got like a good snap to them when you press. So I don't hate them.
I
Um,
would. Hmm, this is getting tough. I think I would put this right below the N64 controller
yeah, it's really good for
because again,
racing games
it's
with those triggers, but
yeah,
it's
and it does
it
have a stick,
the
which again the PS1 doesn't.
yeah. Although it does have two fewer shoulder buttons. It doesn't. There's like the PS1 has the R1 and the R2,
Yeah,
and this just has the triggers.
oh, that's true. They are
Yeah,
nice triggers though.
they are really nice triggers, and they are pressure sensitive. This was the first controller where that was a standard thing, which is why they're so good for racing games.
Which there was a lot of on
Yeah, there were a lot
Dreamcast.
of on the Dreamcast.
I'm going to stick with below N64. I think that's a good
Okay,
spot
that's
for it.
fair. That's fair.
Okay. Who knew it would go that high?
Yeah,
All right.
I think people unfairly shit on the Dreamcast controller.
Yeah, I think so
It could
too.
be better, but I don't think it's as bad as people say.
No. All right. DualShock 2, which is basically identical to DualShock 1.
Yeah.
I think they
But
may have
it
slightly changed the triggers.
yes, the so the thing about the DualShock 2 which doesn't get used in a lot of games, is almost all of the buttons are pressure sensitive, including the face buttons and the D-pad. But they're almost never used. The only games that I can think of off the top of my head that use them are Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3. And that's it.
So that means, well, I guess that's where it would go, because it's basically the same, slightly better.
I mean, I would put it above the Super Nintendo controller, but
just for the pressure sensitive buttons. Yeah. It's the same as this one.
Yeah, but like I would have put that above the Super Nintendo controller as well. You really like those. You really like those concave buttons.
I love those. Oh, I love those concave.
I know. I like them too, but they're not that much of a factor for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll come back to this place for it. They're all in the top tier, so
they're all an A either way. Yeah,
it's kind of splitting hairs at this point.
Yeah, it is true.
Yeah.
The next one I can guarantee you is not going to be an A.
Oh, I don't know.
The Duke.
So I actually read an article about this. I think it was an older article, but it just happened to come across my BlueSky feed, describing the history of the Duke from a design standpoint.
Jesus, look at that thing.
Well, apparently the reason why it's so big is because the circuit boards for it were made before the outer shell design was finalized, and the circuit boards were big. So they had to make a big controller to go around them, and that's why it ended up being so large.
Wow. No, don't delay it or anything. Just make a controller that's fugly as sin. I
kind of like the Duke. I kind of like it. But I do acknowledge that it is unnecessarily large. And that big fucking Xbox jewel in the middle that does absolutely nothing is a tremendous waste. They should have implemented the guide button on the original Xbox. You know? That should have just been a thing. Or fuck it, put a second screen there. You know? Because the Xbox was doing so much of the stuff that the Dreamcast did. Why not just go all the way?
Yeah.
Oh, you remember, it's also got Dante 2 slots. Back. Oh boy, here comes the cat. Here comes the cat. Without fail. Every single time. Oh, yeah, you didn't even come back with the cat.
No.
Oh, there he is.
He's slightly in frame, I think.
He's making himself
he was upstairs sleeping. So I thought he was going to sleep right through the show, but apparently not.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Duke's not as bad as people give it hardship for, but it does have its problems. It is way too bulky, as you've mentioned.
Yeah.
The D-pad's terrible. It's absolutely awful.
It's not great. It's not great. It's not as bad as the 360 D-pad, I don't think, but it's not great.
No.
It's also got those 2 fucking huge slots in it, just like the Dreamcast controller, because they were like, oh, well, if you want to have transferable save data, you got to use these proprietary memory cartridges instead of using right? Instead of having
those giant memory cards.
Yeah, no SD card slot or anything like that. Just these giant fucking proprietary ugly things, which, by the way, not every game even supported.
Yeah.
Supporting those was not mandatory in the Xbox spec, and so some games are not compatible with them.
Yeah, there was a lot of weird design choices.
Which just makes the whole thing stupid.
Did the sticks click? I can't remember if this was like the first clicky sticks. They did, yeah.
Yes, you could click them in just as you could on the PS2 controller.
Mm-hmm.
Also, another thing, this also has pressure sensitive face buttons like the PS2 controller. And again, the only game I can think of that uses them is MGS3 or MGS2, pardon me, because there is MGS2 on the Xbox.
Halo didn't use it?
Halo did not use the pressure-sensitive face buttons.
Weird.
Because what are you going to use them for? It's such a neat niche use case, you know?
Yeah. The black and white button was weird too.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of see them being there because then it's like a 6-button, like an arcade layout. But moving them to be shoulder buttons on the 360 was the right move.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Hmm. I mean, I personally, oh man, it's so tough. What do you want?
What about Dante? What does he think about the game controllers? What's your opinion?
Tell us what you think.
Incredibly insightful.
So much information. Tell us more.
Oh, I hadn't considered it from that point of view.
I think it should go before the Dreamcast. I kind of agree with that.
I don't know. It's got 2 sticks.
That's true. What the heck?
It's also pretty good for racing games, and there were a few of those on the Xbox as well.
You think it was better than the Dreamcast controller, eh? Yeah, I guess it was, technically. All right. I'll give it that.
I mean, I'd say it's better than the N64 controller.
Yeah, I guess it technically is.
It's
got 2
more
sticks.
Functional. It's more functional.
Yeah. Which I guess means that the next controller goes above the Duke, because it is the Xbox OG S controller, I think they called it.
Yes, the controller S. This is what they launched with in Japan because they knew from focus testing that the Japanese audience was never going to accept the Duke.
We shouldn't have either.
Well, and it came out in Japan 3 months later with the controller S. You know,
yeah, it's not controller like they couldn't have delayed it.
Yeah, controller S is fine. I haven't used it nearly as much as the Duke because I had a Duke for my Xbox, but it's it's just as good, if not better.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. GameCube, very polarizing controller.
Yeah, GameCube, weird one.
People still use it to this day to play Smash Brothers.
I mean, it does work really well for Smash because
I don't know why people consider it better though.
The buttons being different shapes makes like recognizing which one you're about to press even easier.
The lack of 2 sticks though. It's got that C stick, but that's not a real stick.
It's a real stick. Come on.
It wasn't as good as the joystick on the left. That's for sure.
Well, it doesn't have like the little hat on it. It just kind of ends with a nub. So it doesn't have.
Why did they bother?
Like, I don't know. They definitely should have had that textured like mushroom cap thing on it. That would have been
mushroom
better.
Cap thing.
Well, it looks like a mushroom. It kind of flares out at the top.
I do love the triggers on the top. How they have like a click. Like they press down and then they click.
They're mushy, but it's the good kind of mushy.
Mm-hmm.
Like they feel really good pulling them back, and then they've got that click at the end.
D-pad's nice, although it didn't get used much.
No. I mean, it's in kind of a weird space. It's used mostly for selecting things in menus and stuff like that. But I'm fine with that.
I would put this. I would put this below Duke. Right below Duke.
Okay. It doesn't have as much functionality. You can't click in the sticks.
Yeah, and it's got 1 stick that's not like a full stick. like I said,
it only has the Z button is one shoulder button. It doesn't have like a left Z and a right Z. It just has the one.
Yeah. It was basically a carbon copy of the N64 controller, but like just laid out differently.
Yeah.
because it
Yeah,
had the
it's better.
N64 had the C buttons, but now it's like a stick, and it had
Yeah,
Z, but now it's on top instead of behind. It's basically just a
yeah,
redesigned N64.
yeah. With X and Y buttons, but I'd put it. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. It feels really nice to hold, but it's got less functionality. So
Yeah. All right, the 360 controller. This one's
so
going to be tough.
yeah. Now I will say, in terms of the shape of the controller shell, just the body, not talking about button placement or anything like that. The 360 is my favorite controller. This thing
Hmm.
is like the perfect shape for my hands, and obviously that's
It's very
very
comfortable.
personal. It's very
Yeah,
personal from one person to the next because everybody's hands are like different sizes and everybody's got different comfort
yeah.
preferences. But for me personally, the size and shape of this controller shell is perfect and has never been surpassed. I love the like it is almost therapeutic to hold this thing in my hands. It just feels so good. It's just like,
It
oh,
does.
you
I
get
will agree.
it just fits perfectly.
That's what
But
she said.
with with that said, the D-pad is dog shit.
Oh yeah, it's the
The
worst
D-pad
D-pad
on
of all
this thing
time.
is garbage because like I said, it's this very raised up thing because it goes to a circuit board that's very deep in the controller. And so it has to be long so it can reach the contact point. And that means that D-pad just kind of rocks around. It's not even a real directional pad. It's just like a circular piece of plastic. And so
Yeah,
it is nearly impossible to just go straight up down left right. You're almost always hitting diagonals by accident. And you wouldn't think that that's a big deal, but it is. That's actually caused me to buy a game on a different system before.
yeah, oh yeah. The D-pad's
So
been incredibly bad.
there was years ago, like well over a decade ago, Capcom put out Street Fighter 3 Third Strike Online Edition, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's Third Strike with online play. Um, and I was hovering over the buy it. Like I literally, the 360 menu. I had purchased
Hmm.
this game, or like I
The
think
blades.
purchased the point. No, no, no. This was after the Blades.
Oh, the redesign. Gotcha.
This is the NXE, the new Xbox experience, but it was before the Metro UI from Windows 8. Um, so I had like my thumb over the A button, ready to like purchase the necessary Microsoft points to buy this game, and then I thought, wait a minute, is this on the PS3 as well? Because this is a game I'd use the D-pad on, and the PS3 controller has a better D-pad than the 360. So I went and I checked the PlayStation Store, and it was there. So guess what? I bought it on the PlayStation instead.
There
So
you
that's
go.
at least one case where the shitty D-pad cost them a sale. I mean, Capcom doesn't care; they got their money either way. But for the platform fee, Sony got it instead of Microsoft. And that D-pad is like the one problem I have with this controller, but it's a big fucking problem because of how bad it is.
Oh, it's a huge issue. Hmm.
I will say I would put it above the original Xbox controller because I mean the original Xbox controller, I don't think the D-pad is quite as bad, but it's still not great. But like the shape of this one is just so much more comfortable. Having the right and left shoulder buttons, like the bumpers, instead of the black and white buttons, are such a massive improvement. I would say that there's enough about this that's better than the Xbox controller that I would put it above the Xbox controller. Don't know if I'd put it above the DualShock though, in
No,
terms of like
definitely not.
in terms of overall design. But again, like it in terms of comfort, at least
It
it is
really,
to this day my most comfortable
yeah,
controller.
it really is a shame that they changed the form factor of the Xbox controller.
Dude,
Um,
if I could put all of the buttons and all like the mechanical components from an Xbox One controller into an Xbox 360 controller shell, I would never have to
oh
touch
yeah.
another input device again.
Oh, I agree.
That would be the best controller ever. But yeah, the D-pad is so bad that it does seriously hamper this thing. So yeah, do we want to
feels dirty, but
do we want to put it at the top of B or the bottom of A? Because the rest of it really is good.
oh, I can't put it in A column when it's got such a terrible.
Such a
Like
terrible
one
D-pad.
of its buttons is just awful. Like it's just terrible. It's
Yeah, it's
categorically
basically,
awful. It can't go into
well,
A.
technically it's four of its buttons
Yeah, like
because it's a four. Yeah, I suppose if that many inputs are, I'm getting a message on my phone. Somebody's
oh,
going to be here to deliver something to me. Oh.
oh. Is it flowers? Do you have a secret
No,
admirer? Okay.
no, I wish. Yeah, okay. Hold on a second.
Oh.
I got to reply to this. Oh God, you can probably hear me tapping away at the phone. Hold on a second.
Nope.
Sorry, folks.
Nope. I can't hear anything. You're good. The mic doesn't pick up these like subtle weird sounds like your chair and everything. I don't know. Might be Riverside that is good at doing that. I don't even know if Dante's been whining this whole time, so I don't know if he's been picked up by the mic. Probably when I'm talking, but maybe not. Maybe not when I'm not talking.
Okay. So
All right.
the next one.
Yeah, I think we can leave that there. Yeah, the next one's
Yeah. Okay.
PS3.
Yeah.
Which is basically a wireless DualShock with
Yeah.
6-axis in it as a bonus. So I would say it goes right above DualShock 2 because it's wireless.
Here's what I have to say about that. I don't like the L2 and R2 buttons on the PS3 controller.
Oh, you know what? You are absolutely correct. Those things are fucking annoying because when you put the controller down, half the time it triggers the fucking trigger.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they extend like past the bottom or the back of the controller and it rests on them.
You know what? I might, just for that, I might put it below the 360 controller. That's how much I hated that.
Ooh,
now that you
really?
reminded me. Oh my god,
I mean,
the amount of times I would have to like quickly go somewhere, like run to the washroom or like answer the door or like whatever,
and you accidentally fire a shot or something.
I come back and it's not, something's fucked up. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I'm like, how did this happen? And then I see the controller and it's like bent in with the triggers pulled in. And I'm like, that happened so many times.
It didn't happen to me that often, but it did happen.
I had too many reasons that I had to quickly get up, I guess.
I will say that the 360 controller having a shitty D-pad never screwed over a game I was in the progress of trying to finish.
Yeah, I might even put it below the Xbox S for that.
Wow.
It's not as bad as the Duke, but it is
it really
pretty terrible.
Pissed you off then, didn't it?
Oh, as soon as you mentioned, the second I recalled that, I remember being so mad. And it really made me mad because in certain games where you can't pause, putting the controller down and then you walk away and you come back and like all your ammo's gone or like you've wandered away, like oh my god. I would put it right below Xbox S.
You know what would happen to me a lot is I'd be pulling down on them really hard and my fingers would slide off because they're also convex. They're like sloped, and you just down. Slide off them. Yeah, they're not curved inwards to catch your fingers.
Yeah. No.
So I would definitely not put it above the DualShock 2.
Definitely not. No, I would put it right there. It's got massive problems with those triggers. And the 6-axis sucks, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, it's a gimmick that very few games ever used.
The ones that did, it sucked on.
Yeah, the only game that I ever really cared for the 6-axis controls on was Flower. But that's also not a game where it's like, oh, you're in a lot of... It's not like Lair where you're trying to dodge enemy fire or something. It's just a chill game where you're collecting flower petals.
It's a great game, though. Great game.
It is fun.
Yeah. Beautiful game. All right. Oh, man. The Wii. Man. What do you even say about this thing?
Yeah, so this is another one of those where it's like, if it's a game that it's really built for, it works pretty well. Like the Metroid Prime games on the Wii
Skyward
works
Sword.
works really really well. But then like games that were just meant to be regular games and had to be adapted to fit motion controls. Ugh.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
bad.
Like the
Or
Spyro games, the ones starring Elijah Wood as Spyro, playing those on the Wii was tough because they were like, "Oh,
yeah,
you got to shake the controller."
yeah, and the nunchuck was weird sometimes.
Hmm.
Where would I put this? It's so unique though, because like,
Hmm.
but it wasn't as good. It wasn't as revolutionary as it appeared to be. Once people figured out the waggle, it was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, so it's not actually detecting what you're doing; it's just detecting movement.
Well,
Um,
then they came out with that Wii Motion Plus attachment that
which
had
was
the
such a
additional
bullshit
sensors.
gimmick. Yeah, that
Yeah,
did
because
nothing.
well, it did, but most games didn't take advantage of that. Like Red Steel 2 needed it, and Red Steel 2 it worked fine, but
It's not good
and
when
then
you just describe as a brand new feature that's supposed to like revolutionize the controls
yeah,
too. It's fine,
yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Um, but yeah,
But then
it's
for the
funny.
games
It's yeah.
for
I
the
was
for
gonna
the
say yeah. The
games where
games
it
it
does
works.
work well, it works really well, and
Yeah,
then
man.
for the
Like
ones where it doesn't, it's bad.
like you said, Skyward Sword was great. Metroid Prime trilogy was great. Wii Sports obviously phenomenon.
Resident Evil 4
Um,
Wii Edition,
yeah, that was
aiming
pretty
with
good.
the remote. Yeah,
But
this
you
is a
just
tough
couldn't
one
do
because
standard gaming on it. That's for sure.
yeah, it's such a specialized controller. Like, where do you even put that?
Hmm. I guess we have to rate it on its own. We can't really rate it in comparison to anything else because it's so unique.
But then, like,
Um,
where do we put that on this board? It's
I mean, it's not an A.
no,
Because if it was an A, you would still be playing games like that today, and we're not.
yeah, no,
It was a fad. Um,
yeah.
okay, let's ask ourselves this: if you had the choice between playing a Wii game and an NES game, what would you choose?
Well,
I
but
would choose NES.
it depends on which game, though.
The
Also,
console, your
remember,
favorite game for each. Let's say.
you can turn the Wii remote on the side, and it's basically just an NES controller. So that's the problem with your
Okay.
example is that you could
Okay.
how about or a Super
So it
Nintendo game?
that's too high. We're not going to put it on an A, right?
Yeah,
There's no way it's going at A. So that's why I was
yeah,
starting at C. Okay, so
yeah.
we agree it's at least equal to an NES controller, so it's above there. Would you rather play with a Wii controller or a PlayStation One pre DualShock controller?
I would
I would say
absolutely
Wii.
pick the PS1 controller. Really?
Wow,
Okay.
wow, that's interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. All right.
I would bend the knee to that and put it at the bottom of B.
Okay.
I think it's fair.
It does. It will say it does work really, really well where it's needed, but
Yeah.
then you've got stuff like Metroid Other M.
Oh Jesus. All right. What's the difference on these two here? Okay, so one's the
One
Wii
of them,
Pro and one's the Wii Classic.
yeah, that what one of them has like the handles coming out for
Yeah,
grip that are
it's this
cut
one.
off by the square.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I if I
I'm
remember
tr-
correctly, I hated this one, but I loved this
I
one.
I think I only ever used this once at like a demo kiosk, and then
Hmm.
no, because I never had a Wii.
Oh, really? You never had a Wii? Who
No,
never had a Wii? Even my grandma had a
me.
Wii. What?
No, I have a Wii U, and then I just picked up the stuff for the Wii that I
Oh,
would have and played it
okay,
on that. But
gotcha.
yeah,
Um,
I never owned either of these controllers. I think I only used them like once at a demo or something.
okay, so I'm remembering differently now. I'm confusing the Wii and Wii U. So bear with me for a sec. These two controllers are nearly identical. There's
Mm-hmm.
only one significant difference, and that is that this one has
The
the
grips on it.
handles on the left and the right, yeah, and it has the dual buttons on the top, like a normal modern controller. This one is basically a
Yeah.
Super Nintendo controller, but this controller is like engraved into this controller. It's basically this is this with the handles and extra buttons on the top. That's all. That's the only difference. So they're
Yeah.
practically the same. Uh, and I will say that the
Yeah, these
controller
are
itself is good.
yeah, it's mostly for I believe it was mostly meant for virtual console games.
Yes. Yeah,
And
this
for
was
the
meant for
few
all the virtual
games
console.
that had like traditional control, like again like Spyro, if that had traditional controls in addition to the motion controls, you could use this as well. I don't remember if it did, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Um,
this is basically a retro controller for the virtual console. And like you said,
yeah.
it's basically just a Super Nintendo controller with analog sticks.
Mhm.
But
The
because I
D-pad's
have
great on it.
okay,
I can vouch for that. The buttons are okay. They're not concave.
no,
The sticks are kind of nice actually because they do have
yeah, the
uh,
notches.
the notches in them. Yeah, the buttons on the top are okay. Um, I think we can put both of those like right next to each other wherever we put them because they're basically the
Sure.
same. But where? That's the question.
Yeah, that'll be up to you because I have basically no experience with those things.
Um. Hmm. Yeah, I used the classic a lot to play virtual console games, but it doesn't have the concave buttons, and the sticks being there sometimes was weird when you were playing games that didn't need it.
Hmm.
Um, it didn't have anything that made me want to pitch the controller across the room like the PS3 controller did, though. But I
Well,
wouldn't say it's
except
better
that
than the.
you had to attach it to the
Oh,
Wii remote, and then
yeah, it was
just kind
wired.
of leave it
Yeah,
sitting in your lap instead.
man, this is a tough one. Wow, yeah, this is fucking tough, bro. I don't know what to think about this. Oh,
Yeah, and
because
it's
this is not my
entirely on
list, it's
you.
harder. I know because
Yeah,
it's not my list; it's our list. It's hard for me to place it because, like, I would place it in a very specific part that doesn't
but I don't have
exist
enough.
because of the.
I don't have enough experience
Yeah,
to contribute to where the placement goes. So
no,
yeah, that's a weird one.
damn it. Um, that man, if it wasn't for the wire,
Well,
you know
here,
what? I
let's go back to what you asked before. Would you rather use a Wii remote or would you rather use this?
oh, this for sure. Yeah,
Then put it ahead of the Wii remote.
but it's better than the PlayStation One controller. That's for sure.
Put it ahead of the PS1 controller.
It's definitely better than that's my where I was trying to figure out was before or after PS3. That's where I was going to put them because they're very
Have
comfortable.
have the triggers ever pissed you off?
No, they haven't.
Then put them
but
ahead
the
of the
but the fact
PS3
that
controller.
but the fact that it's wired pisses me off though. Although I guess the 360 or the
Well, no,
Xbox S controller's wired.
because remember, it's wired to the Wii remote, so it's wireless. It's just wired to the Wii remote.
That's almost worse though.
It's almost
That's
worse,
almost
but
worse.
you don't have to sit within
Yeah,
a specific distance of your system.
we'll put them there. I
Okay.
think that's a good spot for them. All right, the Ouya.
Now, the Ouya, I've never played an Ouya.
All right, so this is again on me.
Yeah. Now, I've heard that the
It's
controller
actually
felt
not
like
terrible.
really because
It's
I
not
heard that it
terrible.
felt like cheap plastic bullshit.
It is pretty light. But the shape I liked the shape of it, except for the bottom. Like I don't know if you can tell on this, but like this shape here is weird.
Hmm.
It feels weird.
It does
Um,
look a little weird.
but the actual like triggers and the buttons and everything, they all felt fine.
Didn't it have
I
like
wouldn't say it's amazing.
detachable faceplates so you could customize it?
Oh, I don't know.
I feel like those silver parts were detachable. Maybe that's why people said that it felt really crappy because
Cheap.
anytime
Yeah.
you have detachable plates, it's going to feel a little bit looser.
Hmm. I would. I'd probably put it here.
Okay.
Hmm.
I don't really have anything to add to that. I do
I'm just
wish
looking
that
at
the
it.
Ouya, not that this is about the game systems, but when the fuck else are we going to talk about the Ouya? I do wish that the Ouya had done better because I think it was a neat idea for a game system. It was basically like, hey, pay $100 for. Yeah, it's way cheaper than buying a cell phone, but it's all those cell phone games with a real controller and on a TV screen.
It
I
might
don't
do
think it's a
better
terrible
today.
idea.
Yeah, it might do better today with all the mobile games out there, but you could also just buy a PC to play a lot of like of the games that you would use a controller for on mobile.
Yeah, but the
I don't
thing
know.
about the Ouya is that it was 99 US dollars. It was that really like rock bottom price
Yeah,
point.
that's true. But that didn't help it. That's for sure.
No, and that was weird because there was so much enthusiasm for it. It had one of the most successful Kickstarters of all time, and then when it came out, it just fell flat on its face. And I've never really understood why that was. Like, what happened to all that enthusiasm? Did people just move on from the idea, or did they get more comfortable with mobile gaming, or what?
It says sales were lackluster. Game developers failed to embrace the platform, and incentives offered to promote adoption failed, causing financial problems for the company.
Mm.
It's not very specific. Uh, they provided no promise for developers. They provided funding, sure, but they more importantly provided a clientele unwilling to buy games. Interesting.
Oh, right. Right. Because at that point, most people were used to mobile games being $1 and being like
Mm.
color
Oh
matching
yeah,
games. They hadn't really gotten used to the idea of paying more for like a traditional console game. Right.
yeah. It
Right.
was
That
too
was another
early.
issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because nowadays people are more willing to do that. But yeah, back then I guess it was kind of a tough sell. But I guess I also figured that the people who were funding that thing were the people who were more receptive to that idea.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, it might do well now. Well, actually, no, it wouldn't do well now because phones are so good now, and you can buy like a backbone for phones. So yeah, eh.
Yeah, I mean it also the other thing that it could have potential as, and I don't remember if it was capable of this, but being like an Apple TV or a Chromecast,
I
just a
don't think
thing
it
that you could
was,
use.
but today I'm sure it would be. Yeah, it'd be an Android
Yeah,
box
like
basically.
something that has like Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, all like support for all of that built in,
Yeah, that'd be
and
cool.
the ability to like cast media to it and then to your television. Because my mom has a Chromecast and I use that for putting videos from my phone up on the TV all the time.
Yep, me too.
Like if I want to show somebody like a YouTube video or something, instead of everybody cramming around my phone, just throw it up on the television. Looks great.
Yeah, yeah. Unless you have a
I
smart
mean,
TV.
yeah, but like honestly, like for $100, even just that functionality, I would find compelling.
Well, that was also
Something that
pre-inflation. It'd probably be like
yeah
250 now.
yeah probably would be
Yeah, that's American.
yeah.
All right, Wii U. Oh, the
Oh
Wii
yeah.
U.
Yeah,
Um,
better system than people give it credit for. I'm not. This is another one where I'm not really sure what happened. Because
I think
throughout the lifespan of the Wii, people were like, "We want hardcore games on the Wii, not casual games." And then Nintendo's like, "Okay, here's a system with hardcore games," and then only like 13 million people bought it. Like,
that's
did
one.
people
This
just?
is it's a situation where people thought that they knew what they wanted with Nintendo, and they clearly didn't.
Yeah.
Nintendo figured that out pretty quickly. They were like, "Oh, people don't people don't buy Nintendo systems to play hardcore, AAA games. They buy Nintendo systems to play Nintendo games specifically."
Yeah.
And they learned that once they got to the Switch. They were like, "Oh, okay, we get it." But the Wii U, it had potential, but they never capitalized on it.
Yeah.
It almost feels like a Vita in that sense, where they're like, this thing has so much potential, and then
I
they didn't
mean,
support it.
Nintendo supported the Wii U for way longer than Sony supported the Vita, but I see your point.
But also, yeah, I mean, they can't support it for more time than they realize that it's not getting the traction.
Right. Right.
So, that being said, the controller itself, the Wii U gamepad, had some positives and some negatives. Its left stick and its D-pad I thought were pretty good, but its right stick was awful. It was just oddly placed. It felt so. I don't even know how to describe it. It just felt like I was always having to stretch my thumb to use it. It just felt weird.
Having it there where the buttons would normally be was kind of weird. It didn't bother me that much, but I can absolutely understand why people would be annoyed by it. Because you are having to overwrite your lifetime of muscle memory for Nintendo controllers.
Yeah, the buttons being below is just weird.
Yeah.
The screen was fine. It did its job. It looked decent. The touchscreen was good. I think the thing I hated the most about it, though, is it just felt cheap. It felt like just a fucking Fisher-Price toy.
It did kind of feel cheap. Yeah.
Yeah, and those triggers were awful. That they definitely felt like Fisher-Price. Like, it was just... There was nothing to them.
There's a weird thing. Nintendo has only had pressure-sensitive triggers on the GameCube and nothing else. And that's always kind of annoyed me, because it's like, how good could this thing have been for racing games? Like, I'm not even a huge racing game guy, but like, this is a company that makes fucking Mario Kart.
Yeah.
Like, I really think you'd want to have pressure-sensitive triggers for the accelerator, right? And yet, they don't do it on the Wii U. They don't even do it on the Joy-Cons for the Switch. It's just a strange thing that they've just never gone back to after the GameCube.
Yeah.
Also, I will say for the Wii U tablet controller, like it works just fine. It's kind of fatiguing to hold for a while because it is heavy.
It's just an odd shape. It's really big. Yeah, it's weird.
The wireless screencasting from the system to the controller works okay. But one thing I've noticed is that it does not survive going through walls at all. Like, even a thin wall, you run the risk.
Why would you want to do that, though?
Well, like, if, for example, I have my Wii U out here and my bed is in the bedroom, and I want to lie down and play a Wii game, like Smash Brothers, which is something that I used to do a lot. And I would have to lie on the left side of my bed that was closer to the door because the signal was more reliable there. And it's not like I have thick walls in this apartment. I mean, maybe there's some metal in the walls that I don't know about that's interfering with it, but...
I had that issue at my apartment. The Wi-Fi especially was affected by that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this thing felt like, in hindsight, it feels like a prototype for the Switch, not an actual console.
Yeah, it also kind of feels like, hey, what if we took the DS and expanded that into a home console instead of it just being a novelty for the portable?
Yeah.
Right? Because not a lot of games made tremendous use of the second screen. Some of them did. But most of them, like Bayonetta 2, just shows the gameplay on the controller screen and on the TV screen. Like, it doesn't even do anything different.
I think the system also has the dubious distinction of being the only Nintendo console that didn't have a Super Mario 3D game made for it.
Yeah.
Like the mainline series. Or Zelda, technically. Because
Breath of the Wild did come out It was cross-gen. It wasn't exclusive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if they made it exclusive to the Wii U? Oh my god,
Oh
a
god.
travesty.
That would have been like an immediate Switch port. Like you think a lot of Wii U games got ported to the Switch quickly? That would have been the fastest one of all.
Yeah. Man, where the hell do we put this? I can't put this above the NES controller, man. I can't. That's not this time. I don't know. I just the NES controller is so good.
I think you're overselling the NES controller. It's fine for its
It's
time,
def
but I
it's definitely not better than the Wii controller because at least the Wii controller had like tons more games to play with it. The Wii U controller is so specific. It's even more specific than the Wii remote. So it's like where the heck like does it just go below the Wii remote? I just I feel dirty saying that I would prefer to play the Wii U tablet than the NES controller personally.
I played
I
plenty of
feel
NES games with the Wii U controller. It was fine.
the Wii U tablet.
Yeah.
Ugh. I mean, if you
Lots of
gave me an
NES
NES game
games
and
on the.
said pick which controller, I'd pick the NES controller 10 times out of 10
Well,
between that and
okay,
the gamepad.
but there was no NES controller that worked with the Wii U. I guess I could have used a Wii controller and turned it on its side, but
Or the Wii. You could use the Wii U Pro, which we're about to talk about.
yeah, but I didn't have one of those because they were like $90.
Yeah, I think I have one. I think it's back in the vault there.
My sister had one. It was comfortable. We'll talk about that when we get to it.
Yeah, I don't know where to put this damn thing. I hate it. I hate it so much.
I liked using it more than I liked using the Wii remote for games that actually wanted and expected a regular controller. You know?
I'll put it to you this way: the only time I ever used the Wii U tablet was on games that forced me to. Otherwise,
Yeah.
I used the Wii U Pro controller.
That's understandable. That's understandable.
So I don't know.
Like Zombie U,
Yeah, like Zombie U, Nintendo Land. Yeah,
which continues to be the worst name for any zombie game ever.
yeah, it does. Um, I mean, I guess here. I guess. Oh fuck! I don't even.
It's got more utility than the NES controller.
Yeah. God, that makes me feel so dirty putting it there, but that's the best I can do. I can't put it above the Wii controller. It's so much better.
I think you're lionizing the NES controller a bit too much, but I agree. Know, it's probably in the right place.
All right. The Wii U Pro controller. I'm gonna grab the Wii U Pro controller.
Yeah, go for it. There he is, going to dig through his treasures.
Oh God! All right, Wii U Pro controller.
Yep.
All right, so the D-pad's the perfect D-pad.
Yeah. It's a Nintendo D-pad.
The sticks are really good. They are in that weird shape though. Again, where they're above the buttons.
Yeah, but because the buttons can be offset towards the center, and there's no screen that they would interfere with, it doesn't feel as bad.
Yeah, it doesn't
because
feel
now
as bad
instead
as
of just moving your thumb down, you can actually like rotate your thumb naturally, and so it's just a matter of getting used to that. So it's definitely more comfortable in that regard.
Yeah, and I like the shape of it. It's very comfortable.
Shape is really good.
The triggers suck. These things back here. These things suck. I don't know if you can see it, but there's too much distance between.
Yeah.
This thing and this thing.
Yeah, they should probably be a little closer.
They're a little too far away, and they don't feel.
Well, yeah, they're just binary inputs. They're not analog triggers, so they.
But I will say the form factor is very almost 360 like. Yeah.
It's very good in that regard.
And it is wireless.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, where are we on the list here? Okay, so it's definitely better than PS1.
Yeah.
It's definitely better in
I
Dreamcast, better in 64, better in Ouya. Um,
I mean,
man,
I would probably put it behind just the 360 controller because I'm like, are there any of those there that I prefer to it? I mean, aside from having like the pressure sensitive triggers on the Xbox controllers, like, I don't know.
that's tough because I hate these triggers. They're terrible.
They're bad. Yeah.
They are better than the PS3 ones.
Yeah.
um, hmm. Yeah, I can't disagree with you. I would put it above the 360 personally because it has a D-pad that actually works.
Mm,
I wouldn't put it any higher than that, but it's a damn good controller. I'm kind of sad that it's relegated to the
yeah.
Wii U.
I wouldn't fight you too hard if you wanted to put it above the 360 controller because the
My only
D-pad on that thing is
concern.
terrible.
Do I have a
I
360
will say
controller?
I think the D-pad on the 360 controller is probably worse than the triggers on the Wii U Pro controller.
Yeah. My
Aside
only
from the fact
actual
that they're not
concern.
analog.
Yeah. Yeah. My concern is not the triggers anymore. It's the trigger placement. Having the buttons
Yeah.
below is so weird. I'm playing, I'm shooting, I'm playing. I have to go down. Oh, that's so weird. I guess I could get used to it, but it is
Mm-hmm.
weird to leave the stick like that and go down. Yeah, I guess it's better than the 360, just because it has a functional D-pad. A more than functional D-pad, honestly. Like
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a Nintendo D-pad.
it. Yeah, it's
They're not
fantastic.
going to screw that up.
Oh, no, wow.
Yeah, I can
That
live with it
that
being
might come
there.
as a shocker to people, I think, but
I
probably only
honestly, I
because no one's
wish.
played with it.
Yeah, I wish I owned one, and I wish I'd spent more time with it. But because I remember the times where I have used it, it felt really good. I just couldn't
Yeah,
justify the price when the Wii U gamepad with the screen. It would basically be I'm paying $90 for comfort, and I just generally don't have that much money to burn on such a minor difference. Well, it's not a
no,
minor difference, but you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah. No, I get it.
If my Wii U gamepad broke, I would absolutely replace it with a Pro controller in a heartbeat. Because there
Yeah.
wasn't a lot that I played on the Wii U that absolutely needed the touchscreen. But like,
Also, you couldn't replace the gamepad.
oh, did it need to have that
Yeah,
to boot up?
no, no, like you couldn't replace the gamepad. Like you can't just go buy a gamepad for the Wii U. Like if your Wii U gamepad died, you had to buy a new Wii U.
Oh, they didn't sell them separately.
No,
Oh,
that was a big problem with it too. Was the fact that
oh,
yeah, because I remember when people were like, "Can you play multiplayer games with it?" And they're like, "Yeah, but the second player has to play with a pro controller or a
oh
classic
no!
controller
How
or
terrible! Can I be player two? Can
and
I be player two?
but yeah, but then things like unraveled from there, and they were like, "Well, what happens if you can't use your Wii U gamepad?" And they're like, "Well, you just use Pro Controller." And like, "Well, what if it requires the touchscreen?" And they're like, "Oh,
Well, then you're screwed.
you're fucked. You have to buy a new Wii
Yeah,
U." So
because
that
it
almost
doesn't.
makes me want to push it lower on the list just for that fact. But
Well, that's not really an issue with the controller. That's an issue with the system. They should have been able to
yeah,
support more than one. Like maybe you don't render to the television screen. Maybe you save those resources to just render to the gamepads or something. But not being able to use multiple gamepads was kind of weird.
yeah,
If you could use four gamepads and the TV all at the same time, that would have been cool. I think you would have seen a
yeah.
lot of games take advantage of it. But
That's why I think
the
it's just a
processing
prototype Switch
yeah, the processing
because
power
Switch can do it.
necessary because you have to produce four 480p video feeds and a 1080p video feed, and you have to wirelessly send those 4 out. Like I can understand why Nintendo didn't do that. I just wish they had, because it would have been awesome. We wouldn't have had to wait as long for Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles to come back.
This is true. All right, PS4. I'm gonna grab a PS4 controller. I haven't touched one in a while.
Sure. Do 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 do. Here's some dead air for you to enjoy. Do do do. I can't sing. I don't have a song in my head, so you're gonna have to suffer with me. Hurry back! I can't improvise for this long.
Okay, before we look at the PS4 controller, I got the PS3 controller. Look at that stupid trigger. Look at that garbage.
Yeah. Do you remember, or maybe you haven't even seen it? Because I had to replace my PS3 controller because it was failing. Did you see the replacement one that I got? Did you ever see that?
I've been to your place like twice. I don't remember.
Yeah. I don't think you've been here to see it. I got one in camo pattern.
Oh, really?
That's what they had at the store.
Good old camo.
So I have a fucking camo DualShock 3, which is also dying. So, yay.
Oh man, my PS3 controller's doing that thing where the oil's leaking out of the stick.
Oh yeah, like the rubber reversion, and the rubber becomes like kind of weird and sticky.
Yeah. Actually, the sticks are sticky now. Oh, that sucks.
I have an iPod case where the exact same thing is happening. It's a great case and it will protect it from absolutely anything, but it's over a decade old, so the rubber is starting to deteriorate. It's the exact same thing. It's all like sticky and weird. Yeah,
that's such a shame.
Yeah, because it's a really good rubber. It feels amazing. It absorbs like 100% of impacts. It makes everything feel invincible, but it can't last for more than 10 years or else it just starts to melt. Somebody's got to find a way to bind that properly.
Yeah. All right, PS4. I have not held one of these what feels like a long time, because this feels so damn good. So I
haven't used one in a while either, because I never had a PS4.
I'm having like one of those moments where I'm like, damn.
Now I want to play some PS4 games.
I mean, I play PS4 games all the time on PS5 because they're fucking all cross-gen. But this thing is so comfy. Man.
I do remember it feeling pretty good.
The triggers are so nice. So they fixed the trigger issue. So they are still like that similar style.
But now they flare out instead of under.
Yeah, see, this one flares down, this one flares up.
Yeah, so it catches your finger better, and when you set it down, the weight of the controller doesn't press it down because it's sticking out further, so it rests on them. Yep.
Yeah, it pushes them out because it's got this like divot under here.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you get the touchpad, the share and options button, that really annoying light at the front.
Yeah, that's for games that use like
stuff.
like the motion stuff and the camera to detect it.
It is surprisingly light, but I think that's because I'm used to another controller on this list that we'll get to. But it is super comfy. I'm just gonna use this as a DualShock comparison. I just won't use the triggers because otherwise it's identical. Yeah, no. Yeah, no. PS4 is better than the DualShock 2 for sure. No doubt in my mind. Yeah. Yeah. I would say this is the top of A.
Really?
Yeah, there's no doubt in my mind. I have a... Well, we'll get to those controllers, but for right now...
We're about to have a disagreement.
You don't think it's better than the DualShock 2?
No, I mean when we get onto the next controller.
Oh, uh, oh, the Xbox One. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I I can't. Man, I'm actually kind of blown away at how comfy that controller is. All right, so the Xbox One controller, which I do have right here.
Yep. I also have
Um,
mine in my hands because I use
I think
one for my PC games.
is this an Xbox One controller?
Uh,
It
yeah.
has to be. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, because
I
it's
don't know
got
why I
the
have
top
one.
goes. Yeah, this thing is basically perfect. I will say the shell, it's not quite as comfortable to me as the Xbox 360 controller, but it's like comparing a 10 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10. It's such a minor difference. It's not quite as good, but it's nearly perfect.
All right, let's go
Um,
through this. D-pad feels decent.
D-pad feels
I
pretty
don't,
good. It's not as
I
good as a Nintendo D-pad,
no,
but
I
it's
don't like
pretty
it's
good.
clicky, but it's not bad. Yeah, the
I
sticks
kind
are
of like
great.
the clickiness.
Oh yeah, I hate when I can hear my controller over the TV. I instantly don't like it.
Yeah, I think these are
um,
tact switches, and I always like the way that those feel because they've got that really snappy click. But I
I
mean, if you don't like it, you don't
I do
like
like
it.
the way it feels. I agree with the way it feels. It feels great. Um,
They
yeah,
are
I don't like the
loud.
way that they're loud. Yeah, the sticks are
Yeah, I
really
mean,
good. I really like the concave.
yes, and I agree
Uh,
with you. The concave sticks are nice.
yeah, that's it makes it so easy to keep your finger on the stick without doing weird, without slipping off.
Yeah,
It's also
it
got that
doesn't
nice
even.
texture.
Yeah, it does. And the thing is, like, you look at Nintendo sticks, and they usually have like a ring texture for your thumb to grip into. This doesn't even need that because it just catches
Yeah,
in the like the dip in the stick. It feels good. Clicks really nice. You can hear that.
yeah.
Oh yeah,
The
that
buttons
feels
feel
good.
good. The buttons
Buttons
feel
feel
good. The
good.
starting, oh, that feels good. The triggers feel nice. They're really snappy. No
Yeah,
resistance to them, but
they've got
they're.
good travel distance.
I will say
The
that they.
guide button is not perfect, but like I'm because I only ever use it on PC. I don't care about the guide button.
Oh shit! I have batteries in this thing. They have
Oh,
not exploded.
that's the other thing I like about this is that you can use AA batteries. It doesn't need to be a proprietary battery pack, or you can just plug it in with a USB cable. So
I'm trying to
I
figure out
just
why I have this controller. I never owned an Xbox One, so I must have
maybe
got
you're
it from
just using it for
somebody.
PC. Maybe you're using it for PC games
I don't
because you can
know.
also
I
just
don't.
plug it into a Windows computer and it'll work.
Oh, I know what I used it for my Raspberry Pi. That's what it was for.
Oh, okay. See
That's
that's
what it
the
was
other
for.
thing that puts it over the DualShock for me is that I mean maybe it's kind of cheating, but like this thing is just natively part of Windows and I can just plug it in and it'll work. Now
Yeah.
I believe the DualShock 5 does just work as a native controller these days as well, but
Yes.
I don't think the
I will
DualShock 4
say.
did.
I will say that the triggers have a minor pinching hazard on the back.
It's extremely minor. You really have to be sticking your
It's
fingers in a weird place for that to
it's
happen.
it's yeah, it's odd though. Oh no, they have a big pinching problem up on the top right here.
Yeah, I know. That's what I mean.
I don't like that. Why do I like? I'm like, yeah, that's odd. Why did
But
they
it's
have the
such a
buttons
minor
connected to
pinch,
each other?
and it doesn't hurt. It's just like your fingers
No,
just like this.
it's
The skin just
it's
slides out. It just
annoying
feels.
though.
It's a little bit annoying, but just don't
They
put your
could have
fingers
just
right
separated
there.
the buttons and not had that problem at all, though.
Yeah, but then when they separated the buttons, you controlled about that on the Wii U Pro controller.
But that's because they were like a fucking whole inch or two apart. like, look how far that is. That's crazy
It's not that far.
in comparison to zero. Like, I don't know. I mean,
I will
Oh,
say the part where the bumpers and the triggers meet, they could have rounded those off a little bit more so
yeah.
that
Like if you
you
look
didn't
at a
get the
PS5
folder skin.
controller, sorry, a PS4 controller, it doesn't seem to have that issue. They don't. That doesn't do that on this one. I can't. I don't.
Yeah, but
I
it's
don't.
like the most minor pinch in the world. I wouldn't even call it a pinch because it doesn't
Yeah, but
feel like painful at all.
no, it's not painful. You're not going to lose skin over it or anything. It is there. I will say it's very
It is there.
comfortable. Um, you're saying this is more comfortable than the PS4 though?
I consider it to be more comfortable than the PS4.
It doesn't have a touchpad.
Yeah, but who cares about the touchpad?
It's an extra button. Actually, it's an extra two buttons technically.
But doesn't it only ever get used as like the start and select button anyway?
Mm, sometimes. I will also say that the PS4 controller is rechargeable, whereas you have to use batteries for the
Yeah, but you can
Xbox.
just buy rechargeable AA's. That's what I do.
But that
I've
means
been
it costs
using.
more.
Yeah, but it's such a minor cost increase, and you get to use those batteries for ages. I've used the same like set of 10 rechargeable AA's for like the last 4 years,
Well, whatever. They're both
and
going to be in A
and I can
either
use
way.
them on anything and not just an Xbox controller. Like I use those same AA's in my mouse.
I don't have to use any batteries. I don't
But
know. I like the
there is a
PS4 controller
battery in that.
personally. Yeah,
I like
but
the
I don't have to replace it though.
Yeah,
It's
but what
always
happens if you
good to
need to
go.
replace it? That battery's going to die eventually. You have to
Yeah, but I
disassemble the
also feel
controller to
like
get it out.
after using a controller for 4 or 5 years, that I kind of want a new one anyway because they get kind of used. You know,
Yeah,
I don't know.
I've been
For
using
me,
this controller for more than that.
for you,
Well, I
for
clean
me, I
it.
would. Okay, all right. But it's hard to clean to a point. I don't know. I
Now
would
you
say
know
the
what
PS4 is better, but they're pretty much identical. Just
they
it's more
do have a lot
preference
of the
than
same
anything else.
features. You want to know what
Yeah,
my trick for cleaning the controller is? Because you know
take
how
it
you get
apart.
those you get well, I mean you could do that, but to get into those seams, I take a piece of paper and I fold it up and I use the folded part and I get in there and it just scrape out the gunk.
It's the gunk. Well, that's gross.
Yeah.
It's true
Well,
though.
what are you going to do? Leave it in there? Yeah, clean it.
Yeah, yeah. I'll put it above just to concede, but I would say
Okay.
PS4 is better personally. But they're both fantastic controllers. That's for damn sure.
They are both good.
All right, the Joy Cons. Oof.
Yeah.
Good for the design of the console, but as a
Yeah.
controller
As a
specifically, they
controller
are
specifically,
awful.
not great. They are super
No,
tiny.
way too small.
If you're a child and have child-sized hands, like if I was 6 years old, I would probably think that these things are the best. But I'm not 36. I'm 30. I'm not 36.
You're
No,
not
I'm not
six. You're
6.
36,
I'm 37, and so they
and I
are
can't
too
do
small for
math.
me. And yeah, my brain. Look,
Look, my brain.
they
It died.
they they're too cramped. My hands go numb using them because I have to crunch up so
Yeah,
much.
I hate them. Yeah.
Using them separately, like as they're pictured in that image, is the worst way to use them. It's terrible. I hate doing it like
Yeah.
that. I never use them like that.
No, and I don't. I hate
Then
using them as like the Wii remote type controllers too. They're
yeah,
too
yeah,
small.
because they're not big enough. Exactly.
No. Yeah.
The second best way to use them is attached to the Switch. The best way to use them is attached to that specific controller shell. But if you're going to go that route, you might as well just get a Switch Pro controller.
Yeah. Which we will talk about.
Yeah. The only like the thing about the Joy-Cons that is kind of neat is that for certain games you can use them as individual controllers, and I have played games with my niece like that. I've played several games with my niece like that, which is nice because controllers are fucking expensive these days.
Yeah,
Those
it's cool
things
to
cost
think
like,
for like Mario Kart and stuff like that for sure.
yeah, those things cost an insane amount of money. They cost like basically the same as a game.
Yeah, they're about
Um,
$90 these days.
yep.
Yeah.
And
Canadian.
so the fact that I don't have to buy a second pair and I could just use like detach them and use them like one for me and one for my niece is fantastic. However, the biggest problem with them is the tendency for them to drift, which is a huge point of failure on these things.
Yeah, I've
Um,
never had this happen for me, but I know like a
I've
million people who'd
I've
have.
had it with both pairs of Joy Cons that I have. Now
Oh, that's awful.
I will say one of them is a third party pair because
Oh
they were
well, then
cheaper.
yeah, it doesn't
But
count technically.
the fact that they happened with my official Nintendo ones, and they also happened sooner with my official Nintendo ones. My unofficial ones do have a little bit of drift, but it's not debilitating like it is on my official ones. Like I can't use the official ones anymore because the left stick drifts so badly that it's unusable. And that's the other thing, that it's only happened on the left stick for me. It's never happened on the right stick.
I will
But
also say that because the layout is different on each one,
mhm.
the one on the right, the stick is way too far over to the right on the right
Yeah,
one,
but
so it's not
I
very
mean,
comfortable.
there's that's a limitation of the space that they're working with.
Oh yeah, I mean
I
it's
I would love for
I
them to be wider and have the sticks and the buttons in a more comfortable place, but then it would make the Switch like a million miles long. And that thing's already huge. I get why they did it. I don't like that they did it, but I get why they did it.
yeah, yeah. Um,
I will now.
can we find
Here's one thing that I really like about the Joy Cons that I really really like:
the
HD
Rumble?
Rumble.
Yeah, it is pretty
Yeah,
cool.
it's so good. Who
It's
would have
not as good as
thought
the
that just
PS5 Rumble, but it's good.
well, I mean, but the PS5 is a more recent system, so they learned from
Yeah,
that and improved on it.
yeah.
Who would have thought that just sticking a few extra Rumble motors in there would make such a massive difference? But the games that use HD Rumble, they are next level, and I wish that more games would take advantage of that because when they do it right, it feels so good. You can actually
Now,
incorporate it into gameplay because you get like a spatial sense of where the thing that's causing the rumble is coming from. Blaster Master Zero uses it that way. There's a boss that's the arena is larger than the screen, and so you can't always see where it is because it might be off screen, and you can tell from the HD rumble where it is because it rumbles in the
yeah.
direction that it's currently
No,
moving.
it's really good.
It's
Are
really
you trying
really
to talk
good.
me up because you know I'm going to put this low on the list?
No, God no. I'm just trying to be fair.
Okay. I would put this right above the PS1 controller
Yeah. Okay.
because I just if we're just specifically saying the Joy Cons themselves,
Yeah.
I can't put it any higher than that. Yeah, when
Yeah.
they're attached to the Switch
It's
itself with the Joy Cons is fairly comfortable.
yeah,
But if
you've
it's
got like a
just the
place
Joy
to
Cons on
put your
their own,
fingers.
yeah,
Yeah.
like it's just
And
playing them
honestly,
sideways
even
sucks. And
even with the Switch, I would say it's still not as comfortable as using like
no,
an N64 or a GameCube
exactly.
controller.
Yeah. Okay. So
With
I can't believe
with
we
the
agree on that.
grip, it's about as comfortable, but
The only reason I'm
even
putting it
then.
above the PlayStation 1 controller is because it has all those features that you said, like, the
Yeah.
fact that it's two controllers in one technically and has all these like
Mhm.
cool features like the HD Rumble. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's also not comfortable. And
Yeah.
that's kind of an important feature. So,
That's an extremely important feature.
but it's very flexible. So
It's
that's
very
why it's kind of,
flexible.
you know,
Yes.
that's why it's
And
higher
there
there.
are ways to mitigate the discomfort.
Yeah.
But yeah, just trying to design around that small form factor system means that there's only so much you can do.
All right.
But then, of
The
course,
Switch Pro.
the Switch Pro controller. Now, I don't have as much of experience with this. I have used it a little bit. It's way better than the fucking Joy-Cons. It's
Oh
way
yeah,
better.
definitely. I used to have one.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to it. I think when I moved, it vanished.
Yeah, whenever you move, there's always going to be something that gets left behind.
Yeah. I do have a couple of problems with it. Um, so the D-pad's great, the analog sticks are great. The buttons are quite large on it for some strange reason. I don't know why they made
Yeah.
them as large as they do. It feels weird.
Yeah.
Um, but the real problem with it is uh, twofold. The grips are strange. They're textured differently than the rest of the controller. So like half
Mm-hmm.
of your like palm and your hand are on the grips, which are one texture, and then the other
And
half are
then,
on like the
yeah,
main piece,
like the
which
faceplate
is
of the controller. Yeah.
yeah, it just feels odd. And then
It's
the
a little
bigger
weird.
problem I have with it is it's heavy. It's oddly
Mm-hmm.
heavy. Like
Yeah.
you would think this thing has like crazy extra features in it, but it doesn't. It just has
Well,
regular rumble.
it doesn't
Uh,
have HD rumble?
I don't think so. I'll double check,
Huh.
but I don't remember it having like amazing rumble in it.
I would think that it would
S-
have HD rumble in it because it was still a new thing, and that to me would explain why it would be heavier because the rumble motors would have to be bigger and thus heavier to move a larger
no,
controller.
it claims it has HD rumble.
Then that's probably it. It's probably the
I,
extra weight from the larger rumble motors.
yeah, which I think works against it for me.
Yeah.
Um, it's very heavy. Um,
Yeah, and a heavy controller is kind of a pain because you got to hold it for a while, and it's not that it's like, oh, it's too heavy to lift. It's just that
no,
when you're holding something for a long time, it doesn't actually need to be that heavy for it to become uncomfortable over long periods of time. Like the original
yeah,
DS, when I was playing it with games that required the stylus and I was holding it with one hand and using the stylus in the other, it would start to weigh on my hand after a while. Like I'd be playing it
yeah,
for, about 45 minutes and I'd be like, "Oh man, this thing is fine when I'm using it two-handed, but if I'm just using the one hand and the stylus, I'm starting to feel it." Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I can't talk about the triggers. I don't remember much about the triggers. Let me see if I can find a picture so I can remind myself because I don't remember anything about them. Switch Pro controller pictures.
Yeah, and I haven't used this thing since like God. I think I first used one in like 2018, and I think that's the only time I used one.
Oh, I see. Yeah, they're nothing like the Wii U Pro. They're big and wide. Um, yeah, I don't remember them being remarkable. Um, I just remember this thing being too heavy. It was too bulky. Oh, I remember these triggers now. They click, and I hate that. They
Yeah.
click like the sticks click. Like they make an audible click. Um, which feels and sounds strange. Um, I would place this probably above the PS3 controller.
Well, yeah, because it's not going to have the triggers that
It's the
piss you
stupid
off.
triggers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's got the
That
HD
seems to be
rumble and
kind of the threshold. Is like, does it do the
yeah.
PS3 triggers piss you off enough that it makes this better?
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much all the modern controllers are above it.
Yeah.
Um so yeah, that's where I would place it, is right above PS3. I don't think
Sure.
I don't think the other ones are wired though. That's something that I always take into account too, but I guess we have wired controllers in A, so I can't really hold the wireless versus wired against it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what about the OG Xbox S controller? Yeah, it's too heavy. Yeah. Yeah, I'd put it right above PS3. That's where I would put it.
Okay.
I don't know if you have
That's
enough
fair.
experience to change that or not, but
No, not for that specific fine tuning. I'd say that's a good
okay.
place for it though. Man, remember
All
when
right,
B was empty?
yeah, what happened? Yeah. That's good though. That means controllers got better over time. That's what that
Yeah.
means. Steam controller. I don't have any experience with this. Do you?
I used it once and I hated it. I
Okay.
hated that instead of sticks, it had those weird little touch pads.
The
They
trackpads, yeah.
were incredibly uncomfortable. Well, not uncomfortable, but
Just
unintuitive to
awkward.
use. Yeah.
Mm.
Um, but I don't have an like. The thing is that I used it once and I immediately hated it and said I'm just going to use my regular Xbox controller instead of buying this. So I was never forced to use it. So it's like, where do I put it? I mean, I certainly wouldn't put it in trash. It's not the Odyssey controller, but I don't have enough of a fine-tuned opinion to say, oh well, where in
All
the
right.
rest of these does it go? So
No,
I did
that
not like it,
qualifies.
and I would not use it. um I have used it, but just the one time to know that I didn't like it.
Yeah, no,
So
that's
I
fair.
guess not enough experience.
Yeah, I think that qualifies. The Stadia controller.
Which I have never used, because why would I ever
Yeah,
play a Stadia?
so I've used this controller once. One thing I want to check is the triggers, because I'm trying to remember. I think they're long and wide.
They do look
That's what
kind
she
of
said.
long. Wait, if it's both
Uh,
long and wide, isn't it just round at that point?
uh,
You just have
and
like a dinner plate?
I
Or
don't
would
even
it be
have
a
words.
ball? Would it be like a baseball?
Be something.
Which do you think would
Oh
be
yeah.
worse?
Probably the ball. Probably the ball. Yeah, I remember this trigger being. They are long and wide. Actually, they are long and wide. Um, I wish there was like a 3D image that you
Oh,
could
like
like
one that you
twist and
could
turn.
rotate? Yeah.
Yeah, but I can't
They call
seem to
that a
find one.
turntable.
Oh, there we go. That's a good picture. Um, yeah, yeah. So there's a couple of weird things about the Stadia controller. Number one, the buttons are like almost indented into the
Hmm.
console. I know it doesn't look like it on the picture, but they're almost flat against the controller. Like
That's no good.
they're raised like a millimeter. It's really weird.
Oh,
It's not all that uncomfortable.
it's like when you go to a bank machine and the buttons are just barely higher than the faceplate.
Yeah, kind of like that, but they're not totally uncomfortable. It's just a little strange.
Yeah.
Because you're so used to having that like
Big
tactile
big bulbous buttons that stick out.
big bulbous, long and
Yep.
wide. Um, the D-pad is also strange. So the left and right buttons on the D-pad are also flat, but the up and down buttons are they flare up and flare
Yeah, I
up
can
on the
see
down.
that. That's
Yeah,
weird.
it feels again odd. It doesn't feel bad. It just
Yeah.
feels odd because it's so different. The sticks are good. I can vouch for the sticks. The sticks are both good. The the rest of the front buttons are fine. The I don't remember a whole lot about the triggers. That's what I'm kind of failing to remember. I think
Except
they
for the
are
length and the
more.
width, which was a sticking point.
It was a sticking point. think I think they were basically like a a long and wide PS4 trigger, so they
Mm.
weren't bad. Um, but I think
Now
the
here's my
general,
question.
yeah,
Here's my question. Could you use this for more than the Stadia? Like, could this just work as a generic Windows controller?
I don't know. Let
Because
me check.
if it
Does
only
this?
worked with the Stadia service, then that's ugh.
Yep, it works on PC.
Okay. Because then it's not a
Yeah,
useless piece of junk right now. People could still use them for something that still exists.
it works on Android devices too,
Oh yeah, that makes sense. But
using
then
either USB
so
cable or Bluetooth.
so does uh so does my Xbox One controller.
Yes, it does. Um,
Although I do have to
yeah,
use a USB 3 adapter for it because my phone only has a USB 3 port. So I have to use an adapter to get the USB A to USB C USB 3 types, whatever the fuck. You know what I'm talking about. I've never used one, so you'll have to be the determining factor on this. Unless you didn't have enough experience with it, in which case we can just throw it in not enough XP.
I mean, I didn't like use it for hours. I used it for like 15 minutes, but I do remember the buttons being strange, but not terrible. They were just weird. You'd probably get used to it. But I would say it's probably here if I can get it to stick. I think that's probably a good place for it. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just it's so average, but then it's got this just a couple of weird oddities.
Well, like I said, it's kind of like the shape of an Xbox One controller with the button layout of a PlayStation controller.
Yeah.
Which, like,
yeah, it's a weird one.
I'll be honest with you, I don't hate that idea.
No, like I said, it's not terrible. It's just not. It's just weird. It's just strange feeling. All right, let's move on. What's the next one? Is this the Xbox One?
Series controller.
Series, which is right here.
Yeah, now I have actually not used one of these, but from what I can tell, they are almost identical to the Xbox One controllers, barring some slight shape differences. And doesn't it have like rumbling triggers or something?
Yeah, it has rumble in the triggers. It doesn't have haptic feedback, but it's got rumble in the triggers. I will say,
does that add anything, or is it just a gimmick?
It depends on the game. Some it feels right, and other you kind of get like numb index finger from.
Oh, we don't want that
because it's so often, you know.
Yeah.
That being said, though, I think it's so it doesn't have the pinching problem of your Xbox One controller. I'm not sure if you can see the difference here, but
it's a slight difference, but I can see it.
Yeah, they've rounded that problem out. The Xbox Series controller is heftier for some reason. It's got a lot more weight to it.
Well, again, it's probably because it's got rumble motors for the triggers. That's probably adding to the weight. Because remember, that's literally how the rumble motors work. Is there's a little weight attached on. It's like an asymmetrical weight where it's just heavy on one side and it's attached to like a pole, and it just spins around. It's like, imagine if you had a giant piece of metal spinning around on a stripper pole. That's how it works.
Man, I'm so torn right now. The other difference is the D-pad. So on the Xbox One D-pad, you have just a pretty standard D-pad. On the Xbox Series controller, you have this like...
Oh, it's like that circular thing.
Yeah, which is actually very comfortable. My only problem with it is it's very clicky.
I mean, I hate the circular D-pads because that's, to me, it's way easier to hit the diagonals by accident.
It isn't, though, because it's got this like grid. See the grid?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I see that.
So you can feel the different grooves, so you know where you're hitting. I don't have that issue on this one because of those grooves.
Well, maybe they solved for that. But like I said, I've never used an Xbox Series controller, so because I don't have one. So I don't have an Xbox One either. The only reason I have the controller is to use it for PC games that work better with controller than mouse and keyboard.
I keep switching back and forth between the two, trying to figure out which one I like best, and it's such a toss-up. There's things about each one that I like, and then things that I don't like. Like, I like the sticks on the Xbox One controller better, and I like the form factor of it. Like, it feels better, but it also feels cheaper. Like, it just feels kind of cheap. And then I put the Series in my hands. It's pretty much got the same sticks, actually. I think the Xbox One is just worn.
Yeah, that's possible. I will say, on the not the back plate, but like the side plates of the grips, they do flex a little bit on the Xbox
Yeah, they
One
do.
controller, which does feel a little bit cheap. But I mean, again, like you said, maybe it's just worn because I've been using this thing for several years.
Yeah, I definitely don't get that on this one. The other thing I like about the series that the Xbox One doesn't have is it's got textured triggers. I'm not
Oh,
sure if you can
interesting.
see the texture.
It doesn't come through super clearly, but I can kind of see it. Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah. Now I can see it.
Yeah, yeah, that feels better. It makes it feel it's more grippy.
Yeah.
Um,
It looks kind of like a almost like a basketball.
it's got the same thing on the back. I don't think it'll show that on the white, unfortunately.
Yeah, probably not.
Oh, there you can kind of see it.
Oh, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like a golf ball kind of dimpling.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't, I don't like that
You
on
don't
the
like that.
grips. No,
Okay.
that might be preference though. I find it like it almost like rubs my fingers the wrong way. I have
Yeah.
pretty girly hands though, so maybe that's just my personal
Well,
problem.
I'll
Um,
say I like to move a controller around in my hands because
yeah,
sometimes I like to change where it's sitting in my hands so that I can like shift
yeah, this is way better.
and like if I need to like rapidly tap a button, sometimes I want to shift it so that I can have it's more comfortable on my thumb and having a smoother finish. I mean, the Xbox One controller doesn't have a perfectly smooth finish. It is textured, but it's like a very grainy texture instead of having
Yeah,
like a larger, grippier texture. So it feels
yeah,
smoother compared to that.
yeah. I can tell you for certain that I do not like this textured grip. It makes my finger. It almost like makes the tips of my fingers feel like they're asleep if I do this too often. Like it's
Oh
weird.
yeah,
That being said, I love the triggers way better. I like the D-pad better. I like the fact that it feels like a product, like a more solid
premium
product than the
product.
Xbox One. Yeah. That being said, though, going back to the PS4, I still like the PS4 controller better than it. So it doesn't really matter where we put it because I still like the PS4 controller after
Well,
feeling all
okay.
three.
How about because you still like the PS4 controller more? Why don't you put it behind the PS4 controller?
Uh, yeah,
Because
I can definitely do that.
I don't have any input on that, so it's entirely on you.
All right, I like that. Now the PS5 controller. Now I got to get one now.
Mm. You should have just gotten them all like at the get go.
I should have.
Instead, you keep going on this journey.
Yeah, at least it's not far.
Yeah.
All right, PS5. Oh man.
Now, I haven't used the PS5 controller as much. I've used it more than the PS4 controller. I will say that, but I haven't used it because I also don't have a PS5. My sister does, and I play it occasionally at her place, and it's pretty comfortable. But I don't have like enough experience with it to say that. Oh yeah, I definitely like this better than the Xbox One controller. That's just a lack of experience. But the time that I have spent with it, I do enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, I would say it's the best controller.
I mean,
Um,
if you wanna put it on top, sure, because it is good.
I
And if
can't
I,
find anything wrong with it. Like I love the sticks. The D-pad's decent. I
I
mean,
mean,
it's still got the
that's a
classic.
pretty it's a pretty compelling argument if you can't find anything wrong with it.
Yeah, my only complaint against it would be the fact that you know the the charge on the battery is kind of not wonderful. It's not terrible by any stretch. There's a lot of people that are like, "Oh, it only lasts like 6 hours," and I'm like, "Okay, 6 hours is a fucking long time. That's if you're playing for a 6 hour
Well,
straight stretch,
I
just
mean,
get a second controller."
I would
Like,
expect
that,
the battery on a controller to last longer than that because it's not like it's doing any processing.
yeah, but if this
It's
is
just sending.
it's got the Super Rumble stuff in it though. It's got like Rumble here, 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 and then it's got the haptic feedback triggers, a touchpad, and a light.
So,
So
I mean, it's basically got HD Rumble. Okay, sure, but like the Joy-Cons last longer than 6 hours.
they also have like a quarter of the buttons. They have what? Four face buttons, a D-pad,
Uh,
and
yeah, but it's not
two
about the
shoulders.
number of buttons. It's about how much is being done. And a button input is a button input. It's just completing a circuit. It's more about like the wireless.
Hmm.
That's the big power drain on it, and the rumble. Even the light isn't that much of a drain because it's an LED, so it only takes like a tiny fraction of the power of any other light.
I always forget how much I like the PS4 controller. It really is amazing. It's so good. But then I pick up a PS5 controller and it just feels like such a premium product in comparison. Yeah, no. Yeah. PS5 would be my top draw for sure. It would be
I
the
will say
best.
the
So
PS5 controller, like, not that this means much, but it looks sick as hell.
oh
I
yeah,
like the
fucking
I like the look
look
of
at
it.
that thing. It's sexy. Look at that.
Well, I'm
That's
thinking specifically of the one in the picture. I like the bright white
oh, the
and the
white and black.
super. Yeah, I think that's a
That's the
really
one that
good
died on
look.
me. So I don't have that
Uh,
one anymore. I guess I should be comparing this to the Xbox One controller, not the PS4 controller, because it's basically, do I like the Xbox One? Oh yeah, there's no contest. I would like the PS5's better for sure. For
all right.
me
Well, if you want,
personally.
if well, because I don't have enough experience with it, you let me have the Xbox One above the PS4. I'll let you have the PS5 above the Xbox One.
All right, I'm okay with that. And that was the last one. Holy shit! Didn't even
Yeah,
realize that.
we have two more, but it's just another PlayStation controller for some reason. It's on there twice, and then it's
Yeah,
also this joystick PlayStation controller that neither of us have ever used. So
yeah. So I
those are
guess
just
that could
being
technically
left.
go here.
Yeah,
All right. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the top controllers here in the A column are all just examples of
unsurprising,
how to do
honestly.
it. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure. Um, but yeah, I think from what I can tell, preference wise, mine is the PS5 controller and yours is Xbox One.
yeah,
Although you said you don't have enough experience with the PS5 or Xbox Series controller to know for sure.
yeah.
So
But like, I do like the DualShock. Like, I absolutely do.
yeah,
I would have. I like the PlayStation family of controllers in general. Like I was surprised that you wanted to put the N64 controller ahead of it, but
yeah.
I found that since like the 360, Microsoft has generally made my preferred controller.
That's fair. Yeah,
Um,
and
but like,
there's definitely a preference for the stick placement too. I find with people.
yeah, yeah, and like I'll say I prefer the PlayStation stick placement.
Oh, okay.
I do like having them both down there because I don't feel like it's as strange to have my thumb down there.
Stop saying down there.
Down there, down there, down there, down there, down there. I can go either way with the offset sticks or the symmetrical sticks.
Yeah, me too.
I just kind of
Yeah.
I prefer the symmetrical sticks just a little bit. I'll tell you what I wish both of these companies would do: put the notches in like Nintendo used to. Also, Nintendo, bring those
Yes.
back. Those are great. I
Yeah.
love those.
The notches on the sticks it's so underrated. It's so
Yeah,
good. It's
yeah.
unfortunate that they don't have that. I agree. Um, yeah, the Xbox Three or Xbox Series controller for me is close. It's so close to being the perfect controller, but the I hate that graininess on the grips,
Yeah,
and
I can see that textural difference being a thing
yeah, it's just
because
it
it's a
wears on
minor
me.
thing, but it is going to sit in your hand for a while, and
Yeah,
when
it's
it
got to
sits in
be
your hand for
comfortable.
long periods of time, even the small nitpicks can become issues.
And you know what's funny is that there is a texture on the PS5 controller. It's just way more subtle.
Yeah.
Because when you feel it heat on the front, it's not there, but when you feel it on the back, it is there. But it's just so much
Okay.
more subtle than the Xbox Series controller, which is like if I do this, Where my mic? I don't know if you can hear that.
Yeah.
That's the texture that's on there. If I do it on here, a little more soft. It's not nearly as textured. So I think they nailed that. And then obviously on the Xbox One controller, there is no texture. It's just a matte finish. But I guess it's got a subtle texture on the back.
Yeah, a very subtle texture, but it's very grainy, so it feels smoother than like the dimpling.
It actually, going back between the PS5 controller and the Xbox One controller, that's kind of what the grain feels like on both. Yeah, the one on the series was way too aggressive.
Yeah, and I do like that like
sandpaper.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a little too aggressive. All right, anything you want to add or change on our list?
I don't think so. I think this is pretty good. Yeah. The Odyssey is down in the trash where it belongs. And
I'm still a little heartbroken that the gamepad is above the NES controller. I have to say that. It's hard for me to swallow. But
it's also rounded, man. Like it doesn't have corners like the NES controller does.
It's also big, bulky, has terrible triggers. I don't know. I don't like it.
Yeah, but the NES controller doesn't have any triggers. And also it's kind of small in my adult hands.
That's true. I don't know. That would be my only complaint is the Wii U gamepad. It's too high.
From playing it as a kid versus playing with it as an adult, because
I would like to get my hands on it now. Actually, I have the Mini, which is pretty close to the original controller.
I mean, I have an NES controller right here. I'm using it right now, and it's not the most cramped. It's not a Joy-Con, that's for sure. But also, you know what I will say? I wish that this wire was in the center of the controller instead of off on the one side, because it does make the controller like kind of hang weird in my hand. You know, like instead of being nicely balanced. Also, man, this thing is light. But listen to that D-pad. Light. Listen to that D-pad.
Oh, it's crisp.
Yeah.
It's nice and crisp. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the best D-pad. It's so good.
Hold on. This thing's kind of dusty.
Yeah, so was my PS3 controller. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's also you would never know that this thing was once gray. Oh, it is yellowed badly.
Yeah.
It looks like I pulled it out of a sepia tone photo.
You got to get that webcam set up for 2025 so we can see this stuff.
Yeah.
Get her done. Get her done, bro. Get her
also,
done.
this thing has 6 screws in it. Do you remember when they used screws in things?
Yeah, I guess the PS5 controller, I don't see a single one. No?
Yeah, let me see. Yeah. There's probably some screws on the inside, but I think this is all held together like I'm looking at the Xbox One controller. I think it's all held together with plastic tabs that you have to pry apart.
Yeah, I don't see any on that one. I'm looking at the PS4 controller.
You gotta be careful when you're taking it apart so you don't snap those tabs.
Oh, PS4 has a bunch of screws.
Oh, look at that.
See them?
Yeah. Although these, I will say, because I have taken apart this NES controller, these screws are rusty as shit, and when I tried to take it apart, I stripped them really bad.
That sucks.
There's basically no receptacle for the screwdriver in them anymore.
I'm so annoyed that you pointed out that these have screws in them, because now I'm like checking them all, going like, which one's got screws? Wow, the PS3 has. Look how many other PS3 has. Look at them all.
Yeah, I've taken apart the PS3 controller before. There's a bunch.
That's
crazy. Here's a piece of advice: never take apart your PS3 controller. It is hard as fuck to put back together.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I wasn't able to.
It's got a bunch.
I wasn't able to fix the problem that I had with it anyway. So
there's like paint on my Wii U Pro controller for some reason. See the paint.
Jeez. What did you
What the
do
hell is
there?
that? It looks like paint, like orange paint. That's weird. Like it's not coming off, so it's definitely paint. I don't know what the hell that is. Maybe I dropped it, or I don't know. I have no idea. Anyway, yeah, cool list. I love doing these TierMaker lists. It's a nice trip down memory lane, and I like comparing things. And you know, everyone's list would look different. That's also something to keep in mind. Everyone's list would be different.
Although I do think that everyone would put Odyssey in the bottom. I don't think there's any
I can't
defenders of
imagine
that
anyone
controller.
putting it there.
Or
it would be in there, not enough XP. One of the two. Yeah. I also feel like the PS4, PS5, and Xbox One and Xbox Series would definitely be in the top. Like they're hard to deny how good they are. They're really, really good.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're just iterating on winning designs at this point. So
yeah. I think the only real surprise is that bad boy, the good old Wii U Pro. You know?
Yeah.
Underrated controller, guys. Underrated controller. Yeah. You can't buy it anymore, so that sucks, but, you know.
Yeah.
Find it at your local Microplay or eBay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's wrap it up. We're almost at 3 hours here. If you want to reach me on BlueSky, I am at TJ-Leo.
And I'm also there at ninjas. Whatever they put at the end.
I am also there.
Well, I am also
getting
there.
A lot of people adding me. I'm not sure if they're bots, but I'm getting a lot of people adding me all of a sudden. So that's cool.
Yeah,
some interaction going.
Since I got on that on that starter pack, I've had a bunch of people add me. I have twice as many people following me after like 2 months or whatever of using BlueSky than I had after 15 years of using Twitter.
Yeah.
So
yeah, Twitter's
also we've hit double digits on the YouTube channel now. Ooh.
I saw that we subscribers, or
we have 14 subscribers last I checked. Ooh,
what?
Ooh. Yeah.
Do we really? Let me see.
Yeah. Wow.
We do. Why was I not
14?
Notified? It normally notifies me of who our subscribers are.
You've got 14 subscribers. Hooray!
Yeah. I mean, that's cool. Yeah, that's a milestone. One step at a time. One step at a time.
That means that my call out to 9 subscribers from when we recorded a few days ago is already out of date.
Yeah. That's good. Wait, we've had 5 people at us in just days? That's cool. Well, appreciate you, whoever you are. Comment more. Let's hear from you. Yeah, and by the time this posts, we will be over 50 videos on the channel, which is awesome as well. So congratulations to us for all the hard work. And thank you for everyone out there who has watched and listened. That's also absolutely fantastic. So anyway, let's wrap this up. If you want to check out the last episode of Press Pause the Gaming Podcast, you can click down here. If you want to subscribe, click up here. Don't forget to like, share, ring that bell, whatever they say these days on the YouTubes. Just get her done for us. Whoa. I don't know what that means, but do that too.
Neither do I.
All right.
We are in our 30s.
Yeah, we're old. This has been Press Pause Extra. Now get back to gaming.